Well, guys, I was going to start, but I just poured coffee all over my carpet, so I'm gonna do some cleaning up right now. I'm sorry. Sorry, Hikari. I just poured coffee all over my carpet. I'm cleaning up right now. I'm sorry. Be right back. I start to think that Noodible is cursed. Every time I try to do Noodibles, something weird will happen. Like my blood doesn't have sound. And then I fucking pour coffee all over myself and the carpet. Trying to clean it up with, like, dry it up with my hair dryer, but it's gonna take a long while, so I'm not gonna waste your guys' times, which is very important. Alright guys, are you guys ready? Actually I'm not ready. I'm still eating my breakfast and drinking my coffee. I hope you guys don't mind. Do you want some ASMR? Like biting into fucking bread? I can do that for you. Man, I'm tired. I haven't even started and I'm tired. Jesus Christ. Okay. Hey, let's do some chit chat while I'm eating my breakfast real quick, okay? I'm drinking my coffee as well. So, how has your weekend been, guys? Tell me all about your weekend. Mine sucks. No, not really. Mine was okay. I was really busy. I was busy helping a friend. I'm busy being depressing at home. My breakfast is not a lot. If I don't talk, I can finish it quite quick. Man. Oh my god, even my phone has coffee? What the fuck? I didn't see that. What's wrong with me? Fucking hell. How's your week been, Hikari? Weekend, I mean. Man, I'm awkward. Can you guys wait for a while? I'm just eating my breakfast real quick. I need energy to read, you know what I mean? The voice acting part is really tough on me. But it's also my favorite part to read the dialogues. So I can like make voices for them. Read it in like angry intonation, sad intonation. And nobody's in here except for Hikari. Hikari, are you in a rush? Cause I'm seriously just eating. I'm enjoying this ASMR biting into bread. Toast, I mean. I will. In a second. I'm running out of mentaiko bread spread. I need to buy more, but I couldn't buy like cheap ones. What did I put? Oh, I put mentaiko bread spread, like the Japanese style, and then I put just normal butter on it. I love mentaiko. I love mentaiko everything. I mentaiko on noodles, on udon, mentaiko on my bread. Mentaiko. Mentaiko. I'm a fake. I'll check my Duolingo and see if someone surpassed me already or not on leaderboard. Ah, fuck. I'm number 2. Fuck you. I'm gonna practice later and kick the number 1 out. Right. There's a lightning round. Hang on. Let me do Duolingo Japanese while I'm eating my breakfast while waiting for people to come in. Hikari, you're not in a hurry, right? I'm like the worst streamer ever. I haven't even started reading. Good things comes when you wait, okay? Okay. I need to learn Japanese, okay? My Japanese is getting worse. Neko. Ear. 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 Tori. Inu. Hare. Soto. Senaka. Me. How do I sing that song again? Natsu. Mimi. That's like the best opening song, man. Rurouni Kenshin. Natsu. Yeah, you guys are watching me level up in Japanese, guys. 40 XP? Hell yeah. "21 days streak. Wow, you extended your streak earlier than 69% of all learners. Hell yeah. Oh shit, there's someone here. Hey! Welcome to my stream where I'm eating bread and learning Japanese on Duolingo. I'm gonna start reading soon, but let me finish my breakfast first because otherwise I'll be hungry when I should have wake up early. I know it's my fault. I should have woken up early to do all these things before my stream starts, but you know what? Life doesn't work that way sometimes, okay? John. Africa. Rome. Maria. Erika. France. Africa. イギ ギリス、
フランス、
フランス、エリカ、
イギリス、
イギリス、アジア、
フィリピン、
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 ローマ、
マリア、
マヤ、
マリア、
ジョーン、じゃじゃーん。I'm super good in Japanese. No, I'm just kidding. I used to be really good when I worked in a Japanese company, and I can speak with the Japanese people working there, and I can mitigate around Japan on my own if I really want to. But now I can't. Fuyu, winter. Meh. Sunny. Hare.
晴れ、
Our iye house. Senaka. Daytime. Fuyu. Senaka. Hiru.
部屋、
Hair.
部屋、
Ori.
曇り、
Kumari.
曇り、
Sorry? Tori. The viewer just left. Haha, because I'm not reading or doing anything, unfortunately. I'm sorry, man. You guys have no idea how good I am in reading books, bruh. You're missing out if you run away from my stream. Darius number 1 now. Am I number 1 now? Oh, I'm in Ruby League now. Damn, son. Oh, you better than this. Okay, I'll continue later. Let me finish eating my fucking bread. This is the best stream ever. Oh my god, I need to wake up earlier than this so I can eat my breakfast and shit. I mean, not shit, but eat my breakfast and get my coffee in before I start reading because I need energy. Okay. Bread done. Hang on. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, seriously. Alright, guys. We shall not give a fuck about Latecomers, we're just gonna start. Alright, done. We're just gonna start and be awesome. Cause we are awesome like that. ちょっと待って。Let me get my tea ready. Get my coffee ready and everything so that I won't. What kind of sound are you guys hearing from my microphone right now? Because that's me slapping the hand. Alright, fuck it. Let's start, bruh. Today, we are reading Kanae Minato's Penance. Oh my god. Thank you. Oh my god. Thank you for the beats. Oh my god, I love the music. I really forgot what kind of music I chose for those things. I'm so glad I chose that. That's like, you know what? One day I'm going to play Final Fantasy 8, the remastered one, on stream. And then you guys can like backseat me. Alright, today we are going to read Penance by Kanae Minato, Chapter 3, titled The Bear Siblings. I really loved my older brother. He's the one who taught me how to do flips on the horizontal bar, how to jump rope, and how to ride a bike. I'm pretty coordinated, but it takes me time to grasp things. Yet, my brother never got upset. He was always patient, coaching me until I got it right, until it got dark. Hang in there! Just a little bit more! I know you can do it, Akiko! That's how he encouraged me. Even now, when I gaze at the sunset, I can hear my brother's voice encouraging me. And on that day, it was my brother, too, who came to get me. That day? I mean, the day Emily was murdered. You are a professional counselor, right? You told me you wanted to hear about the murder, so that's what I'll tell you about. Where should I start? The other three girls are so much more reliable than me and smarter, so it'll be a lot easier if you ask them about when we were all together. You still want to hear my story? Okay. Then, I'll just talk about it later. When I was alone with Emily. Still, it's kind of odd that now, after all this time, you would want to hear about this. Oh, I get it. It's because the statute of limitations on the murder will run out soon. One moment for tea. On that day, I was in a wonderful mood from the morning. The day before, my aunt Yoko came home for the Obon holiday and brought me a new piece of clothing as a present. I had it on, which is why I felt so happy. My aunt worked at a department store in one of the cities in the prefecture, and always bought me and my brother clothes as presents when she came back to town. Up till then, it had always been matching sport shirts for me and my brother, and other boyish kind of clothes. But that year was different. Akiko, you're in 4th grade now, she told me. So, how about wearing something a little more girly? She had brought me an adorable pink blouse with ribbons and frills. It was so fluffy, glittery design, like something a rich little girl would wear. Is it okay for me to wear this? I asked, hardly believing it as I held it up, spellbound against my chest. My parents and relatives around me all burst out laughing. Are you sure you should give this to Akiko? My father asked. He could speak so bluntly like that because it was his older sister who had bought the blouse, 10 times more expensive than anything I had before. But I'm sure everyone was thinking the same thing. It looks cute, my older brother piped up, and even Aunt Yoko, who had bought it for me, smiled wryly as if having some doubts herself. Though not as sturdily built as I am right now, of course. Back in the elementary school, I was nevertheless the big boned and solid girl in class. My clothes were all hand-me-downs from my brother, who was 2 years older than me. Some of the boys in my class made fun of me, calling me a boy girl. But I was used to it. It was always that way. Still, it could have been worse. At least, they treated me like a human being. But my parents and relatives always said the two of us were like a couple of bear siblings. Actually, on Valentine's Day and his birthday, my brother often got Winnie the Pooh trinkets from the girls, who said that he reminded them of the storybook bear. My brother wasn't one of the more popular kids, but the girls did seem to like him despite his looks. Boys have it easy. Even if they look like a bear, they are still popular, provided they can play sports. And being big isn't a drawback the way it is for girls. If only you had been born a boy, Akiko, my mother often told me. She didn't mean I'll be more popular or anything. She just regretted having to spend extra money on girls' gym outfit and swimsuit for me to use at school. Come to think of it, I was talking about this very thing to Emily that day. I had gone with my relatives to the local temple, and after we ate lunch, I found some other kids with time on their hands hanging around outside, and before I knew it, the usual little group of girls had assembled. My classmates from the West District, Sae, Maki, and Yuka, we were hanging around in front of the little cigarette shop, just chatting, when Emily came walking down the slope towards us. She said she had seen us from the window from her apartment. Her house was the highest point in the whole town. Maki suggested that we go play volleyball at the school playground, and Emily went back to her house to get her volleyball, and I went with her. Akiko, why don't you go with Emily? Maki said. 'Cause you're a fast runner. Not that this means I ran all the way. Bringing up running was just an excuse so that Maki could get her way. I knew this, but getting her angry would only lead to trouble since I had always depended on her. I did what she said without a word. I think the other girls felt the same. So I walked together with Emily up the gentle slope back to her towering castle-like apartment building. We had often played since she transferred to our school in April, but this was the first time we had ever been alone together. I wasn't the talkative type, and I didn't know what I should talk about, so I walked along in silence. That blouse is really cute, Emily suddenly said. It's from Pink House. It's from Pink House, right? I love their clothes. She was talking about my new blouse. My family had mercilessly made fun of me about wearing it, but when I wore it to the temple, it seemed to surprisingly look good on me. My father teased me, saying, "Akiko, you look like a girl." My mother, impressed, commented, "Someone who works in a department store really does know how to select new nice things." So I was in a really good mood. "That blouse is your Sunday best, so change into something else and go out and play," my mother said after we got home from the temple. But I wanted to show off the blouse to everyone, so I kept it on. The girls I always played with, though, didn't say anything about it. My brother often explained to me what he called the ironclad rules of the country folk. Among them was the rule that you could envy things you could actually get, but should ignore things that were out of reach. Without realizing it, the other girls maybe had been putting that rule into practice. Or maybe they just weren't interested at all in what I was wearing. Not that I brought up the new blouse myself, because I didn't. But Emily noticed my blouse. Fashionable Tokyo children like her really are different, I thought. The problem was, though she had praised my blouse, I had no idea the brand she had mentioned, Pink House. It was embarrassing, but I wanted to know more about it, so I asked her. She told me Pink House made lots of soft, puffy clothes with frills and ribbons and corsages and badges, like something out of Anne of Green Gables or Little Women. "It's a brand," she explained, "that fulfills the dreams of girls who love cute things." I imagine a shop filled with cute clothes like that. I would love to go there, I thought. How wonderful it would how wonderful would it be to have a chest filled with Pink House clothes? Just imagining it had me all excited. Actually, I love that kind of really girly thing, though I had always kept it a secret. I mean, nobody expects a bear to be all girly. French dolls were popular among the girls for a time, and all of us sketched out designs for dresses for them. A gold tiara with row of hearts, dresses like a field of flowers with pink and white roses scattered around, glass slippers. "Wow!" my friends said in surprise. "Akiko, you can really come up with some cute dresses too." A pretty rude thing to say if you think about it. But that's how far I was from being cute. Cute things don't suit a bear, so I enjoy them in secret. That was more than enough for me, so having Emily praise my clothes made me overjoyed. But she went on and said this: "You are lucky, Akiko, that those clothes suits you. My mother says that I don't look good in them and won't buy them from me." It didn't sound like she was making fun of me. Cute clothes look good on me, but not on Emily? No way! A puffy cute design looked good on her. But with her slim build and long legs, it was true that a sharper, more cool type of clothing looked even better. This day, Emily was wearing a tight black t-shirt and a pink Barbie logo on it and a red pleated skirt. And they definitely suited her. And yet, here she was, a girl like Emily, saying over and over again how she envied me with my new blouse. It made me happy in the beginning, then I got a little embarrassed and made some silly excuse. "Oh, my aunt worked in a department store and bought this with an employee discount. My mother would never buy something this expensive. I always wear my brother's hand-me-downs. I don't complain, but she tells me it would have been better if I had been a boy." My mother says the same thing. "If only you had been a boy." What? You're kidding. Nobody would say that about you. It's true. And not just once. She said it many times, sounding really disappointed. I hate it. Emily pouted as she said this, but I just couldn't believe it. With her cool looking almond eyes, it's true. She would have made a good looking boy, but as a girl, she was far more pretty. Still, it made me so happy to know that Emily had been told the same thing and made me feel closer to her. I felt as if I could share my love of cute things and wanted to be even better friends with her. Even now, I regret that it never happened. As we continued to grumble on about our mothers, we arrived at her building. We went through the entrance, past the property manager, and took the elevator to the 7th floor to Emily's apartment, which was on the east side at the very end. It's only a 4 LDK apartment, she told me. It's kind of small. But I had no idea what LDK was. A sort of great room, living room, dining room, kitchen meant. Emily pushed the call button and her mother came out. She was so beautiful, slim and tall, with gorgeous big eyes like some actress. I almost felt bad about calling her a mother, putting her in the same category as my own short, stocky mother. I went inside the front door, feeling the cold air of the AC, and waited for Emily's mother as Emily went to her room to retrieve the volleyball. Thank you for being friends with Emily. I think it's too hot to play volleyball. You girls should play here inside. I just got some delicious cake delivered. Invite the other girls over afterwards. Though her voice was refined and kind, I sort of shrank into myself and could only manage a faint smile in response. I might have been even forgotten to breathe. Everything in Emily's house was so obviously expensive that all I could think of was trying not to make a wrong move and break anything. The first time I ever experienced feeling ill at ease was the first evening I was invited to Emily's house. Just standing in the entryway, I couldn't relax. On top of the shoes case was a vase, the kind that makes you think of the Palace of Versailles, and beside the front door was a large white ceramic kind of jar, an umbrella stand maybe, or some sort of an ornament that reminded me of the Parthenon. Despite this, Emily came down the hallway bouncing her volleyball as she come. Make sure you come home by 6 o'clock and watch out for cars, Emily's mother said, stroking Emily on the head. Okay, I get it, Emily said with a smile. I could barely remember the last time my parents had stroked my head, and I felt envious of how loved Emily obviously was. I never imagined this was the last time Emily and her mother would see each other. And of course, I had no idea either that few hours later I would be back at this house that had me always on pins and needles. You asked about the day of murder, and I seem to have talked about everything besides that. I'm not trying to dodge the topic. I'm really not. It's just that whenever I remember the incident, my head aches and feeling like it's going to break. So as soon as I can, I would like to avoid these heavy topics. I will jump right ahead after we found the body. Is that okay? Right. Maybe I should add this. I think the reason the man didn't take me with him was less that I was heavy than that I'm like a bear. I think that's about it. Now I'll get to after we found the body. 1 second please for a drink of tea. So, Maki instructed me to run to Emily's in her stereotypical phrase because I was a fast runner, and off I ran. This time, I really did race as fast as I could. Yuka and I ran together until we got to the back of the gate of the school, then each headed off in opposite directions. Oh my god, this is terrible, terrible. My head was filled with these thoughts and I didn't feel so scared. At this point, I hadn't grasped the immensity of what had taken place. If I had considered things a little more carefully, I think I would have gathered my wits and before I arrived at her house, thought of the best way to inform Emily's mother of the awful reality of her daughter's death. I might have gone home to my house first and had my mother come with me, get help from an adult. Might have realized that I didn't need to directly use the word dead. But all I did was keep running for all I was worth. I was so intent on running, I didn't even notice my brother as I raced past the secret shop. At the apartment building, the same property manager was there, and I whizzed right by him and leaped into the elevator. I arrived at Emily's apartment, ran right up to the intercom and kept on pushing the button. What in the world? You should mind your manners! Emily's mother said this as she opened the door. Then, when she saw me, she said, "Oh, Akiko," in a dazed voice. And I stood there, out of breath, and for a split second I thought, what a cute flowered apron she had on. Then, shook my head to gather myself and yelled out as loudly as I could. "Emily's dead! Emily's dead! Emily's dead!" The worst possible way to have told her, right? At first, she seemed to think it was a joke, staring at me and let out a small sigh, and hands on hip and facing outside the open door said, "Emily, I know you are hiding there. Stop fooling around and come out, unless you want to go without dinner." But Emily wasn't about to come out. "Emily!" Once again, her mother yelled out to her out the door, but the apartment building, with most people gone for Obon holidays, was quiet, not a sound to be heard. Emily's mother looked at me expressionless for 3 seconds. 5, 10, or maybe it was just instant, I don't know. "Where's Emily?" she asked, her voice dry and husky. "At the school swimming pool." My voice was husky too. "Why, Emily?" An ear-splitting voice shot right through my head and I was sent flying. Emily's mother had pushed me aside with both hands and run out of the apartment. My face was knocked against the wall hard. I fell forward and a dull bang. A sharp pain ran through my forehead. The Parthenon had broken. Probably because I had hit my face. My nose was bleeding. Pain in my forehead and a bleeding nose. I was sure my skull was cracked and that was where the blood was coming from. Blood ran down my chin, down my neck, flowing profusely. I might die. Help me! My neck jerked downward and I was struck by the sight of my brand new blouse, now dyed red now. No! I felt as if I had sunk down into a deep dark hole, and right then, "Akiko!" a forceful voice called out. I was rescued at last, at the last moment from falling forever into the pit by my brother. "Koji! Koji!" I clung on to my brother and bawled my eyes out. My brother had been on his way home from a friend's, and even though mother had told me to be back by 6, since an older cousin would be coming over, when Greensleeves had played at 6, he had seen me racing off into the opposite direction from our home. So he had gone off in search of me to call me home. He had seen Emily's mother dashing out of her building, and hair disheveled, thinking something had to be up. He had come over here to see what's the matter. My brother borrowed a wet towel and tissue paper from the property manager and wiped the blood from my nose. "Am I going to die?" I asked grimly, but my brother only smiled. "Nobody dies of a nosebleed," he said. But my head aches. Yeah, your forehead's cut a little, but there's not much blood, so it's not that bad. Finally, I was able to stand up. Seeing the shattered Parthenon, he said, "What happened?" "Emily died at the pool," I replied. He looked shocked, but said, "Let's go home," and gently took my hand. As we walked down the slope, I looked up and saw the sky was dyed a deep red. The wound, as you can see, there's no scar. My brother applied some disinfectant and an adhesive bandage, that's all. When we come home and my brother saw me covered in blood, she let out a scream. And when I told her what had happened, she said, "I'm going to the school," and ran off, leaving me behind. She's the kind of person who flies into an instant panic. I heard about this later on, but even though I was right there, standing in front of her eyes, she was convinced that it was me who had died at the school. So, despite the pain, the cut had stopped bleeding, and it wasn't very deep, so I didn't go to the hospital. Still, even after 15 years, whenever it rains or it's really humid, and when I remember the murder, my forehead aches, and bit by bit, I get a splitting headache. Today it's raining. Plus, I've been talking so long about the murder, and I feel as if it's going to start soon. It's already starting to ache. Is that enough about the murder? The murderer's face? Could you forgive me for not saying anything about that? All four of us said that we don't remember his face. Actually, it's not just his face, but my memory of the whole thing is kind of vague. It's less that I don't remember than, as I said before, whenever I try to recall the murder, especially something really important, my head feels like it's going to split open. The pain is intolerable. Once, I tried to grit my teeth and remember everything, but just as a vague image of the man started to emerge, I was hit by such an overwhelming pain. I was sure that if I went any further, I would gone mad. So I gave up. Do you think I should have told the police that when they questioned me? If I said I had my head hurt, since I still had a bandage on my forehead, I felt as if the police and other people would find out that Emily's mother had showed me, and I hesitated to do that. Thank you for being here, Sorcha. Please take a seat and continuing the story. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please take a seat. Thank you so much. The police questioned me several times.
Stretch!
Okay, that was a good stretch because I was having. I was like, I need to put my microphone properly so that I won't hunch when I'm reading. Sorry, guys. Okay. The police questioned me several times. They asked the same thing each time. And the first time, I went along with what the other three girls had said. So from the second, I answered as if what the others had said was my own memory of events. Maki sometimes used English words, mixing up green and gray. So I wasn't sure what color the man's work clothes were, and I don't think anybody realized what had happened between me and Emily's mother. I didn't go into much detail about what had happened at Emily's house right after the murder, and the police didn't question me about it very much. I didn't even tell my mother. I didn't even tell my brother about Emily's mother shoving me aside like that. People might have blamed Emily's mother then, and that would have been cruel. Anybody would have flown into panic if they had just heard that if they had just heard that their child had died. It was my fault that I got hurt. I shouldn't have been standing there clumsily blocking the door. So when they asked about my injury, I told them I was rushing and fell down. Nobody doubted this, since it happened right after we discovered the body. But more than my own injury, don't you think that the Parthenon-like ornament being broken was tens of thousands times a bigger loss? You know, I hadn't thought of this until now. But maybe the stinging I get sometimes is from the fragment of the ornament that got lodged into my forehead. It certainly feels that way. Too late to take it out now, though. Still, even if I had known at the time that a porcelain fragment remained in my forehead, I doubt I would have gone to the hospital. I mean, bears don't go to the hospital, do they? There are vet clinics, of course, but a bear wouldn't go to one of its own, would they? A bear knows the way a bear's supposed to live. The one who didn't know, that was me. You have to know your station in life. I heard my grandfather say this ever since I can remember. You shouldn't think that everyone is equal, because some people are given different things from the time they are born. The poor shouldn't try to act like the rich. A stupid person shouldn't try to act like he's a scholar. A poor person shouldn't find happiness in frugality, and a stupid person do his best with what he's capable of. Seek something above your station, and it will only lead to sorrow. God is carefully watching us all and will punish you if you reach too high. My grandfather always ended there. But one day, when I was in 3rd grade, he added the following. So, Akiko, that's why you shouldn't care about being plain looking. Can you believe it? Where did that come from? Maybe he said it to make me feel better, but don't you think a statement like that would have the opposite effect? I was big and sturdy, that was true, but I had never thought my face was that bad. And though I wasn't as good at schoolwork, at least I was athletic. Most of the other kids around me weren't much different. I had never thought life was unfair. So, when my grandfather said that, I just thought, there he goes again, and didn't pay much attention. It was only after Emily moved to town that I began to understand what he meant. She was beautiful, with a cute figure, and smart, athletic, clever, and rich. It really wasn't fair. If I compared myself to her, I would feel miserable. But if I put it down to the two of us simply having given different gifts, it didn't bother me so much. Emily had her life. I had mine. I don't know how the other kids felt about her, but from the first time I saw her, I liked her because she was from a totally different world. But that day I felt different. I was wearing a cute designer brand clothes that Emily envied me for, and was happy that my parents had said something to me her parents had said to her. I wanted to be even better friends with her. I tried to reach beyond my station, and the punishment came crashing down. My pink house blouse was proof of that. We sent it out to the cleaners, but the brown blood stain remained, and I could never wear it outside again. Some cute girl might have worn you and taken good care of you, I told the blouse. But because a bear didn't know her place did, and all it took was one day to permanently stain you and ruin you, I'm very, very sorry. I apologized to the blouse. I clutched it to me, crying and apologizing over and over. Forgive me, forgive me. And Emily, forgive me, please forgive me, I said. Because a bear like me, who should have known better, wanted to be friends with a girl like you. That's why you were murdered. My life after the murder? Seek something above your station and it will only lead to sorrow. Emily was murdered because of me. So how could I go on doing things I had done before the murder? Going to school, playing with friends, eating sweets, laughing. I felt as if I wasn't two anymore. Being with people would only cause trouble for them. Even if I didn't have a relationship with a person, it felt as if just my presence alone would cause trouble for anyone I happened to be with. I was worried that at school, if I moved at all, I would bump into someone and knock them over and injure them. So except for trips to the restroom during recess, I stayed glued to my seats. But before long, I started to wake up with a stomach ache or feeling listless, and I would skip school. My parents and teachers didn't say much about my absence, figuring it was only natural considering what I had been through in 4th grade. But when I got into 5th, they seemed to think enough was enough. Even if a murder takes place in their own town after half a year, people not directly involved to see it as some distant, even past event. It was my older brother Koji who encouraged me then. Akiko, he told me, it might be scary for you to go outside, but I will protect you. So keep your chin up. Koji started walking with me to my school in the morning and before going on to his junior high, though it was out of his way, saying that we both should work out, so even if a criminal attacked us, we could fight him off. He fashioned barbells out of used farm tools in our shed. Hang on. Sorry, I got a scam call. Where did I? Okay. Koji started walking with me to my school in the morning before going on to his junior high, though it was out of his way, saying we should both work out, so even if a criminal attacked us, we could fight him off. He fashioned barbells out of unused farm tools in our shed and we did weight training together. Though I felt a guilty conscience about going to school, I enjoyed the training. You would expect a bear to be strong, but I was really into it, thinking that someday I'll be able to get revenge for Emily. The days passed and Emily's parents were soon moving back to Tokyo, and the four of us were asked over to Emily's place to talk one more time about the day of the murder. Other than a missing Parthenon ornament, the foyer was the same as before. And as soon as I took a step inside, my forehead began to sting. But Maki did all the talking and I was able to get through it. But then, Emily's mother said this. I would never forgive you unless you find the murderer before the statute of limitations is up. If you can't do that, then atone for what you have done in a way that I will accept. If you don't do either one, I'm telling you here and now, I will have revenge on each and every one of you. It was my fault that Emily died, so I felt bad for the other three girls. But I knew from the start that Emily's mother blamed me, so it didn't frighten me to hear what she would take to hear that she would take revenge. What seemed strange to me was that she hadn't said anything up till then. I figured finding the murderer would be hard, since I could remember hardly anything about the incident, so I chose to do penance instead. Penance? Never reach for anything beyond your station. This thought never left my head after the murder, and on that day, I pledged again to follow that stricture. I ended up not going to high school. My parents tried to persuade me to at least graduate from high school, but even if I took the exams, I had no confidence I could make it through 3 more years of school. My brother was the one who convinced my parents to let me be. High school isn't a compulsory education, he argued. If she doesn't want to go outside but still wants to study, she can always get a GED by correspondence and then take the college entrance exam. I'll go out and be a success. So let Akiko do things at her own pace. That's what he told them. And true to his words, he graduated from nearby National University, took the civil service exam, and was hired at the local city hall, where he became a well-respected staff in the welfare section. People saw him as a wonderful, devoted son, and he made my parents proud. Koji always liked to help people. That's why the person he married was a woman with a dubious past. Don't get taken in by some sketchy man, get knocked up, and come home in tears now. Kind of a cliche parents and relatives always tell their daughters when they go off to school or work in the big city. But my brother's wife, Haruka, was a perfect example of all the terrible things that can happen to a woman alone in a city. She got a job in the printing company in Tokyo, but could barely get by on the modest salary in this small company paid her, so she started working part-time at the bar to earn some extra spending money. And there, she got involved with the low-level yakuza. The man got her pregnant but didn't marry her, and she quit the company, had the child, and somehow managed to raise her on what she earned working at bars. Meanwhile, the yakuza guy started seeing another woman and vanished. On top of that, the man had gotten into heavy debt to some shady loan company, and loan sharks threatened her that if she didn't pay it back by the following month, they would put her in the concrete and toss her into Tokyo Bay. She barely escaped their clutches and ran back into our town. It's hard to know how much of this story was true, but after Haruka had come back, the whole town knew all the juicy details. Even someone like me, who had never ventured outside her home, had heard about it. I was sitting with my mother and a neighbor woman who had come over and listened in on what she had said, just as if I were one of the cronies. In a know-it-all tone, the woman reviewed the rumors about Haruka, sounding though as if she couldn't believe Haruka had turned out that way. I found it hard to believe too. I don't know if it was to pay back those loans, but Haruka's family did sell off some farmland and land they owned in the hills, and it was true that Haruka had a child. Still, what I found hard to believe was the question of image, I guess you call it. She might be held up as a bad example, but in this town, her story took on the outlines of a heroic saga. People who didn't know her were curious to see what kind of beauty could have gotten to such a fix, right? But Haruka was a modest, quiet person and not really much of a beauty by any standards. She and Koji were former classmates, and our houses weren't far away from each other, so I had known her since she was a child. At that point, I still hadn't seen her since she had come back from Tokyo, and kind of expected the big city must have turned her into a sophisticated woman. But 3 months after I heard the rumor about her, my brother brought her over to our house, and I found that though she has matured, as you had expected, with the passing of years, she really hadn't changed at all. This was on Obon last year, on August 14. 10 years ago, my grandfather and grandmother passed away one after the other, so the other relatives don't gather at our place anymore. But at that day, one of my older cousins, Seiji, my aunt Yoko's son who had just come back after 5 years abroad from work, was coming to stay over with his wife. So my mother and I prepared all kind of good food, sukiyaki and sushi, and we waited, along with my father, for them to arrive. My brother had been out since morning and he phoned to say that with Seiji visiting, he would like to use the opportunity to introduce us all to his girlfriend. It was news to me that he had a girlfriend. Same with my mother, who was rattled, wondering whether she should change her clothes or maybe go outside and buy a cake. But when Seiji and his wife arrived, my mother shelved that and focused on entertaining my cousin and his wife. My parents were the only ones from our family who had attended Seiji's wedding in Tokyo 8 years before, so I think this was the first time I had ever actually met Seiji's wife, Misato. I'm so happy you would come all this way to the countryside to see us, even though grandfather and grandmother are no longer with us, my mother said. To which Seiji replied, a bit apologetically, of course we want to pay our respects at their graves, but this place also had a lot of memories for the two of us. I know this is an indiscreet thing to say, he continued. So I've never mentioned it before, but if that incident hadn't taken place, we might never have gone out with each other. So we have been hoping to pay visit here, just the two of us someday. By incident, he meant Emily's murder. Seiji, who had been a junior in college in Tokyo back then, had been in the tennis club and had his eye on one of the other members from the women's college, Misato, who was a freshman. There were many other rivals for her attention, and he found it hard to shed the role of an upperclassman mentor. But one day, when the club members had gone out drinking and they were talking about going back to their hometowns for Obon, Seiji bragged, "Oh, my hometown got nothing to recommend, though it does have the cleanest air in Japan." To which Misato said, "I would like to go there sometime." Misato and her parents were all from Tokyo, and she was enchanted by the idea of going home to a countryside. Spurred on by a few drinks, Seiji said, "Well, would you like to go together?" And Misato smiled and nodded her assent. Like everyone in our family, Seiji is a serious type who likes to take care of others. Here was a chance to stay overnight with a girl he liked, and the plan he made was, after they ate with us, to just stay over one night in our house and then go straight back into Tokyo. Seiji would stay in my brother's bedroom, Misato in my room. Even I, pretty ignorant with anything to do with love, was surprised that he didn't take advantage of being with the girl he liked. The two of them arrived at the railroad station just before 6 p.m. and walked to our house, arriving at 6. They put down their luggage and took a short rest. Then, my mother said, "Well, we are all here now, so I'll get the sukiyaki ready." But she couldn't find her children, and just as she was complaining, "Now, where did the kids go?" I appeared, and my brother leading me by my hand. I had not noticed Seiji and Misato was there. My mother flew into a panic, then raced out. There were police sirens waiting outside, and one of my uncles said that, out of curiosity, that he would go and see what was up. By this point, the whole West District was in an uproar. This wasn't the time to be entertaining guests, naturally, and Misato told us not to mind about them. Aunt Yoko booked a place for them in a Japanese inn in the nearby town, and Seiji and Misato moved over there. This nearby town isn't much of a place, but it does have hot spring, and with the crowd home for Obon, only one room in the inn was available. Misato was understandably shaken by the news that a murder had just taken place in this country town she was visiting for the first time, but Seiji told her, "Don't worry, I'll protect you," which she found comforting. and that was really the start of their relationship. I think that even if the murder hadn't happened, they would have gotten together. I mean, no matter how clean the air might be or how much a person might want to visit the countryside for the holiday, do you really think she would go to the house of the relatives of someone she didn't even like? But I would agree that the murder heightened their feelings for each other. Fast forward 14 years. I don't know the reasons, but Seiji and Misato didn't have any children. But 8 years have passed since their marriage, and I envied how much like newlywed lovers they had remained. As I watched how close they were, my mother said buoyantly, "Koji is bringing a girl over today." Koji was her pride and joy, and having him bring over a girl to visit had her all excited. Maybe, seeing Seiji and his wife, she was thinking how much she wanted Koji too to have a happy marriage. Seiji and Misato were just saying they wondered what kind of person Koji's girlfriend was and how they looked forward to meeting her when Koji appeared. With Haruka and Wakaba too. Wakaba is Haruka's daughter. She was in second grade then. Mother greeted them pleasantly and showed them into the living room. She then took me into the kitchen and said, It's her, right?" Meaning that the woman he had brought home to meet us was none other than the Haruka everyone was whispering about. I was pretty surprised myself, but seeing Mother pace back and forth in the kitchen in a panic, it actually made me calmer. "Yes, that's her, alright. They were former classmates, so maybe that's all it is. Don't get so worked up, it's rude." I gave my mother a nudge and she went back to the living room with a bottle of juice and as many bottles of beer as she could carry. I thought my father was downing the beers a bit faster than usual, but this was because of Seiji and his wife being there, and the dinner proceeded smoothly. Haruka sat modestly next to Koji, almost hiding behind his large frame, and barely ate a bite, though she was very attentive, pouring beer for the others, serving them sushi, stacking the empty plates up. If I had done the same thing, it would have been so slow and inefficient that someone would have told me to stop helping. But Haruka did it so naturally and unobtrusively, you almost didn't notice. She had on what was no doubt her best outfit, and it was the cheap kind you could buy. But it was the cheap kind you could buy in a supermarket in the next town over. As if I should talk, my usual outfit was a brown sweatshirt and sweatpants. Watching Haruka, I felt as if she had lived her whole life here and that the rumors were just as much nonsense. At first, my mother acted sulky, serving up sukiyaki without a word, but then, when Wakaba told her, "Thank you," with a cute smile, when mother broke a raw egg into her bowl for her, my mother finally smiled herself and made sure that the little girl got plenty of meat to eat. When he saw this, my father said a purpose of nothing. "I can break an egg with one hand, you know," breaking an egg into a bowl. When father saw how happy this made Wakaba, he told me to go out to the mini mart and buy some ice cream for her. This was the only mini mart in town, built 3 years before near the elementary school. Seiji said he had run out for cigarettes and went with me. "Is Koji thinking of marrying that woman?" Seiji asked me along the way. I kind of doubt it. Makes sense. She seems okay, but it would be better if he doesn't. It was kind of strange that Seiji, who knew nothing about Haruka's background, would have that sort of opinion. If only I had known her from this one evening, I think I would have welcomed the match. "How come?" I asked Seiji, but he came out with a loud, "Wow, get a load of this." "What's with this parking lot?" he asked. "It's 3 times bigger than the whole store." So what? I wondered. I couldn't figure it out. Seiji was raised in the big city and there's a ton of things he says that I just don't get. I was thinking as we went inside the mini-mart. Seeing all these local people crowding the place, Seiji said, This has to be the most popular spot in town. He sounded impressed. He bought the ice cream and some snack that would go well with sake, cigarettes, and the kind of weekly magazine that the office workers read, and the two of us headed back the way we had come. Seiji didn't say anything more about Koji. What did we talk about on the way back? Seiji was silent, smoking as we walked. Then, suddenly, he asked about the murder. Nothing all that important, I think. I don't recall my forehead starting to ache or anything. Akiko, that murderer was the same pervert who stole dolls on the night of the festival, right? He asked. I just replied, that's right. We never displayed any French doll in our house. Instead, we had a carved wooden bear, a memento from Hokkaido. So until he brought up the whole incident of the stolen French doll had totally slipped my mind. Dinner ended more amiably than I had expected. So I think Koji misjudged the situation. The next morning after breakfast, when Seiji and his wife and we were all having some coffee, talking about going to the hot spring in the town next door, Koji suddenly blurted out, Mom and Dad, Haruka and I are getting married. He wasn't asking permission but declaring his intention. Don't be stupid! My mother yelled out. She stood up pointlessly and then sat down again, obviously in panic. How can you marry? How can you think of marrying a person like her? She shouted. There are so many better women out there that you could marry. Like the Yamagata's daughter, who works in the lab at Adachi Manufacturing. Or the one who went to the same college you did. And the Kawano's girls, who went to the music college and teaches piano. Both of them would like to marry you. So why in the world would you marry that kind of woman? Small point of correction, but it wasn't the girls' parents who wanted them to marry Koji, not the girls themselves. The neighbor woman who gossiped all the way about Haruka when she had come over to our place to sound out Koji about another possible match. At that time, Koji had told her, I'm not going to marry until I'm 30. You are the only one we can count on to carry on after we are gone. Don't get carried away by some infatuation. My father yelled too. It hurt me a little for him to imply that if I weren't the way I am, he wouldn't have opposed the marriage. But more than that, I felt apologetic to my brother. Koji had always taken care of me, but here he was unable to marry the person he loved because of me. Haruka's past worried me, but I felt that if I was ever to repay my brother's time is now. I don't think that Haruka is such a bad person, I said. And I'll take care of you, Mom and Dad, when you are old. Don't be ridiculous. This isn't a time for a recluse like you to interrupt. I don't expect anything from you. As long as you don't bother others, that's all we can ask for. So don't butt in. This was from my mother. She was right, but no one had ever put it this clearly before. I had been so excited about having guests over. We so rarely did, and had forgotten my status as a lumbering bear. Seiji, say something to him, Mother added. And Misato, don't you think there's something not right about that woman? And she started filling them in on all the rumors about Haruka. She didn't need to say all this in front of Koji, I was thinking. But what surprised me was that Koji didn't deny any of it. In fact, when Seiji asked, Is that all true, Koji? My brother silently nodded. And then he said this. I feel sorry for Haruka. Miss Yamagata or Miss Kawano can be happy with anybody, but the only person in the entire world who can make Haruka happy is me. If you insist on opposing us, then I'll take Haruka and Wakaba and leave town. He spoke quietly but forcefully. My brother had met Haruka again at the service counter at the city hall where he worked. She had come to apply for support for single mothers, and Koji was manning the counter that day. I'm just guessing here, but my brother, always the type to help others, must have done his utmost to advise her. First, as a member of the welfare section of the city hall, then as a former classmate. Eventually, he had found himself wanting to protect her as a man. My father sat there stolidly. My father sat there stolidly, not uttering a word. Mother's mouth quivered like a fish gasping for breath. Seiji and Misato were silent, staring at Koji. And I sat there vacantly, thinking, so Koji and Haruka's marriage is decided? I looked around at everyone and felt a large hand come to rest on my head. Thank you, Akiko, for being on my side. As he said this, Koji slowly stroked my head, and tears welled up and I couldn't stop them. That may have been the first time since the murder that I had cried. One moment for tea. The following month, the beginning of September, Koji officially registered Haruka as his wife. The wedding ceremony was held at a nearby Buddhist temple with just relatives present, and struck me as more like a dressed-up memorial service. But Koji and Haruka seemed very happy. People in town at first wondered why he would marry a woman like that. But Haruka's parents were decent, upstanding people. Haruka herself was quiet, reserved, and polite, and gradually people started to wish them well. And Koji had an even higher reputation in town, people seeing him now as a man of real character. Hoping to one day build a home that two generations could live together, Koji and Haruka rented a unit in a 2-story building a 10-minute walk away from our house. It wasn't so tall, a building that on the outside was as chic looking as the Adachi manufacturing apartment complex. As soon as Haruka was officially in the house, registered as Koji's wife, my parents' attitude did an abrupt about face. Perhaps happy that a cute little girl now graced their dowdy home, they would use any silly excuse that they had just gotten some fresh grapes or apples, for instance, to invite Wakaba over and then take her out on the mini-mart to buy whatever sweets or drinks they liked. Wakaba became very attached to me. One day, when she came to visit, she seemed unusually dejected, and when I asked her why, she replied, "I can't jump rope." Jump rope. Now, that brought back memories. Would you like to practice on our yard? I asked. And she went home and came back with a pink jump rope. They had bought it for her, but she never had the length adjusted. It was far too long for her. But since she had gone to the trouble of bringing it over, I decided to demonstrate on how to jump rope before we cut it shorter. Leaping rope, jogging steps, crossed over steps, double hop, double crossover. I hadn't jumped rope in over 10 years, and at first kept getting tangled up. But 5 minutes was all it took to get the feeling back. Did I get out of breath? No way. I mean, I still spent half of each day doing weight training, so there was no way a little jumping rope would tire me out. "Akiko, you are great!" Wakaba shouted happily. I think she found it interesting that someone as visibly bulky as me were jumping around so lightly. After that, she came to practice almost every day after school. I bought a matching jump rope jump rope for myself at the mini mart and we practiced together. Hang in there, just a little bit more. I know you can do it, Wakaba, I told her. Wakaba practiced until it got dark. Then my mother always invited her to eat dinner with us, preparing the kind of dishes that she would make to a child happy. But Wakaba never ate with us. Yay! She said excitedly. You mean I can eat with all of you? But Haruka would always come and take her home before she could. Mother invited Haruka to eat with us, but she always declined. Even though she knew it would end up like this, Mother still prepared kids' favorite like hamburgers and fried shrimps. And she watched frumpy old father and me chomping away by ourselves. She never voiced any complaints. I think it's because of how skillful Haruka was in turning down her offers. I would like to wait until Koji comes home, she would say, and then the three of us eat dinner together, because Wakaba loves her daddy. One mention of my brother and there was nothing Mother could say. Also, from time to time, Haruka would invite my parents and me to dinner with them. As I said, they live close to our house, and I thought she was really an amazing daughter-in-law to invite her in-laws for dinner, even though it wasn't anyone's birthday or anything. At dinner, my brother would enjoy some beers and talk about things like when he went with Wakaba on a school outing to help harvest rice. He seemed really happy, though one thing bothered me. The only dishes Haruka ever made were ones geared to a child's taste. At home, we had always eaten mostly Japanese dishes, not just because grandfather and grandmother lived with us, it's because all of us, Koji included, preferred the plain simple taste of Japanese food. I figured Haruka should have at least prepared one dish that Koji liked, but everything was geared to Wakaba. Maybe she saw my mother making children's dishes every night. Haruka mistakenly thought that was the kind of food our family liked. The idea did cross my mind. Come stay with us over the weekend, Wakaba, my mother said. Let mommy and daddy be alone, just the two of them sometime. They're still newlyweds after all. And you want to have a baby brother or sister someday, don't you? Mother didn't seem to mind the menu Haruka had made. Happily reaching out the curry-flavored chicken nuggets, she loved little Wakaba. And I'm sure she hoped to have a grandchild of her own as soon as she could. You shouldn't talk like that in front of a child, my brother said, scolding her, though he didn't seem to be too upset. Once, he had stopped by our house. He spotted his childhood baseball glove and said how he would love to have a son someday. However, I'm not so sure about that. Wakaba tosses and turns all night. Haruka seemed genuinely concerned. I might kick Akiko in the tummy, Wakaba said playfully. The atmosphere was then quite friendly and warm, but in the end, Wakaba never did come to stay with us overnight. Even after she went into 3rd grade and was already proficient at jump rope, Wakaba still stopped over often at our house. This time, she came to practice doing flips on horizontal bars. We didn't have a bar at our house, so we went to a nearby park to practice. A forward flip? Of course I can do it. I can do it many times in a row without kicking my legs, just keeping them straight. Cause I trained specially too when I was a kid. Time passed, and after the holidays in May, something happened that took me by surprise. Haruka gave me a present of some beautiful shoes. This is for always taking good care of Wakaba for me, she said. During the holidays, she, Koji, and Wakaba had gone to a department store in the city and had bought them there. These were designer sneakers, not made by Sporting Goods Company, but by Women's Shoe Company, with a pink and beige leather patchwork design. Pretty little shoes, a world apart from the cheap canvas shoes I normally bought at the supermarket. I have this too, for you, if it's alright, Haruka said and gave me a pair of jeans. I bought these, she said, but I have a pretty large rear end and I don't look too good in them, so I hardly worn them. Haruka is so slim though. I was sure they wouldn't fit me. Akiko, she continued, you have wide shoulders and your upper body is pretty solidly built, but your legs are slim and very attractive. And your behind is tight, so it's really waste for you to wear such loose-fitting pants. I'm sorry, I know I'm being kind of forward. It's just that I envy you. Far from ever comparing my legs to anybody else's. I had never really examined them closely. But since she was nice enough to give me the jeans, I took off my own brown sweatpants and lo and behold, found that they fit my legs perfectly. They might have been a tad short, but if I wore them with the cute shoes, it might be better for them to be on the short side. When mother came back from taking Wakaba to the mini mart, she was surprised to see this outfit on me. Come to think of it, she said, and got out a black Hard Rock Cafe t-shirt as a souvenir a neighbor had bought on her honeymoon as a present for her. But that mother had been too shy to ever wear. When I put that on, Wakaba said, clapping her hands, Akiko, you look so cool! What stood out now was my loose, disheveled hair. Held back in a ponytail with a rubber band, Haruka introduced me to a beauty parlor in the next town where a friend of hers worked. I went there with Wakaba, who wanted to get a trim. Going to a real beauty parlor, not a barber shop, was the first for me, as I was riding with Wakaba, just the two of us on the train. I'm still not sure what they meant about teasing out the ends of one's hair, but they cut my hair short in a casual looking style and even out my eyebrows too. Koji had given me some extra spending money, encouraging us to have something nice to eat before coming back, and Wakaba and I enjoyed some sweets at a coffee shop near the station. As I ate the tart, which had some kind of strawberry-ish fruits on top, whose name I didn't know, Wakaba watched me closely. You are really cool looking, Akiko, she said. Mom told me that it would be nice if I had been born a boy, but I think you will look even better as a boy than me. Really? She said that? But if I were a boy, then I would be your older brother or your father. Oh, right. Do you like your papa? Uh-huh, a lot. He came to the outing to plant rice plants and help me with my homework. He's so nice. The other day, I kicked him in the middle of the night and he didn't get angry at all. You sleep in the same room? Uh-huh. I sleep in the middle of them. Mama says that parents who get along well sleep like that. Wakaba sounded really happy as she said this. I had always thought that she must sleep in a separate room, but a third grader is still a pretty young child, and I slept in the same room with my brother until I was in 4th grade, so I didn't find it so unusual. One day, in the middle of June, Haruka's mother collapsed while working at their farm and was hospitalized in the city. Haruka being an only child, so she went to take care of her mother, and we took care of Wakaba while she was away. Still, Wakaba never stayed overnight with us. It was a 2-hour trip by train each way to the hospital, and mother thought Wakaba should stay with us and Haruka should sleep at the hospital. But Haruka insisted on coming home each day. She said she couldn't stand being apart from Koji and Wakaba. Mother told me on the quiet that she feared Haruka had some mental issues, since she had been abused by that Yakuza guy in Tokyo. Even now, when she was living a happy life, she might still be afraid that if she took her eyes off her daughter, she would disappear. I told my mother I was impressed by the way she made those connections, and she said similar scenario had played out on a Korean TV drama. Well, I could see that. We decided we'll do whatever we could to keep Haruka from worrying too much. Wakaba came straight to our house right after school, let out and did her homework, and then we practiced like always on the horizontal bars and tossed a ball around. Then Koji would drop by after work. We'll all have dinner, and after Wakaba had a bath, she would go back to their apartment with him. Mother prepared kid-friendly dishes for Wakaba, but was happy to see that Wakaba gobbling down the chikuzen ni soy-cooked vegetable on a plate in the middle of the table. Delicious, Wakaba said, and after that, Mother made even more of the Japanese-style dishes that she was good at. I was surprised that Wakaba said she didn't know nikujaga, a common meat and potatoes Japanese dish. I was thinking maybe Haruka wasn't good at cooking, yet the Western-style dishes that she made when she invited us over had that special touch and was very tasty. So now I rethought things and decided that Haruka simply preferred Western-style food. Like a typical overly indulgent grandfather, my father bought tons of sweets for Wakaba every day, which Koji scolded him for. And when in the second term PE class at school they were going to learn how to ride a unicycle, my father bought her one. I helped her with her homework, and though she managed to get in by arithmetic, it was kind of pathetic the way she could never remember kanji. After we finished homework, we would practice a unicycle and then take a bath together. I had never ridden a unicycle before, and we would go to the park and practice, having a ball until it got dark. And strictly speaking, she was my step-niece, not a blood relation, but the truth was, Wakaba was my one and only friend. And then, things started to change. It was the beginning of July, about 2 weeks after Wakaba and I started taking bath together, that I discovered some bruises on her body. Her waist was red and puffy, and I asked her what happened. She looked down. "I don't know," was all she said. "Maybe it was the unicycle," she said after a while. I had the same kind of bruises on my knee, so I believed her. It was a week later, one evening just before the summer vacation, when I found out the real reason for her bruises. The town was abuzz with news about Sae having killed her husband, and about Maki getting caught up in that terrible attack on her students. The town is cursed, people said. It's been 15 years the TV crews came here, but suddenly they said, "Hold on, weren't both of them playing with that girl who was murdered back then? The murderer hadn't even been caught yet. What is all this?" Little by little, it seemed like people in town started to recall Emily's murder and all that had happened. Apparently, there were phone calls to City Hall suggesting that they asked TV programs to do an investigation, since the statute of limitations was due to run out soon. Why on earth does the City Hall have to do that? My brother complained over dinner. Both women live elsewhere. It's just coincidence. Akiko's living a normal life, and if people start all kind of groundless speculation, it's annoying. He turned to Wakaba beside him and gently cautioned her. "If a stranger talks to you, never go with him. Mommy and Daddy have to be very careful," he said to her. "Since you're so cute, Wakaba." He ignored me and was only worried about Wakaba. That wasn't necessarily the reason, but I decided not to say anything about getting 2 letters from Emily's mother. After I got the letters, my forehead started to ache and wouldn't let it up. What did the letters say? I was too scared to read them. I didn't even open them. They were sent one soon after the other, right before the statute of limitations was going to run out, so I'm sure the point was to remind me of the murder one more time. They are in my desk drawer in my room, so if you like to read them, feel free. And on top of the desk, after Wakaba had finished her homework and had gone home with my brother, I noticed that she had forgotten a homework handout and her key to her apartment. In the mornings, Wakaba went directly to school without stopping by our house, and though it was raining, I decided to go over to their place that evening to return the handout and the key. It was about 10 p.m. I heard Haruka came home every night around 11, and I thought I would give them to Koji after Wakaba fell asleep. Their bedroom was on the first floor in the very back. I should have gone to the front door and rung in the intercom, but I had cut across the parking lot in the back and had seen the light on in the kitchen, which faced outside. The windows was open. The window was open a crack, and I thought about calling in about there and having Koji take the items Wakaba had forgotten. But then, when I peeked in through the opening, I didn't see anyone in the kitchen. I was about to go around to the front door when I heard a small voice from the room in the back. "Help!" the voice said. What's going on? I wondered. Was Wakaba feeling sick? Are you okay? Are you okay? I was about to call into the open window when I heard a different voice. Don't be afraid. It feels better now, doesn't it? This is the kind of ceremony so we can really become parent and child. And parent and children who get along well always do this together. The ache in my forehead quickly spread to my entire head. It felt as if it was going to split apart. I didn't understand what was going on, but a feeling of disgust rose up inside me. The exact same feeling I had when we found Emily's dead body. I should never have opened the door. I remember how much I regretted doing so years before. I turned my back on the window, determined to leave before my head hurt even more. But just then, I heard the voice calling out for help, and the other voice, "You always behave. Why not today? Why are you calling for help? Aren't I the one who helped you?" She was calling for me for help. What should I do? Frightened, I shut my eyes tight, and when I did, a voice echoed in my head. "Hang in there, just a little more. I know you can do it, Akiko." I have to do it. This is why I train every day, for this moment. I opened my eyes, took a deep breath, and using the forgotten key, opened the front door and quietly slipped inside. I stepped softly, heading for the room the voices were coming from, and yanked open the door. And there, I found a bear. In the dark room, lit only by the light filtering in from the kitchen, a bear lay heavily on top of a naked little girl. As I stood there, the bear slowly lifted his head. I had pictured an awful, scary face, but what I saw instead was a relaxed, genial-looking face. Within the bear's shadow, I caught the glimpse of the girl's face. It was Emily, crying. She looked up at me. Emily was being attacked, but she wasn't dead. Thank God, I'm in time. The criminal was a bear. I have to help Emily. Help her this very instant, otherwise she'll be strangled and killed. In the corner of the room, next to a little backpack, was the jump rope. I grabbed it, untied it, and wrapped it around the neck of the bear, still pressed down on Emily. He looked about to start crying. I yanked it as hard as I could. The bear's eye startled, went wide, and he struggled, and I tightened the rope with all my might, and with a thud, he toppled over on top of Emily, laying there, unmoving. At the same instant, Emily's cries rang out through the room. Thank God I rescued her. I'll go to Emily's mother to come and take her home. I turned around, and standing there, right in front of me, was Emily's mother. Oh, I see. She was worried and came to get Emily. Emily's mother stood there, silent and dazed, staring at the collapsed bear. "It was touch and go," I said to her eagerly, "but I saved her because I'm so strong." I'm so sure Emily's mother would have thanked me and stroked my hair, and then I'll be free from this awful pain, and my head was splitting as if my brain were going to be ground to powder and blow away. I waited expectantly, but what I heard were different words entirely. "Why wouldn't you mind your own business?" At that instant, I heard the sound of something collapsing. It was Wakaba who had been attacked. Wakaba whom bear was assaulting, and I had killed the bear. Was this a crime? Maybe it was. When you said you wanted to hear about the murder, was this the one that you meant? Then you should have told me earlier. I hear that Wakaba was put in an orphanage facility. Again, sounding as if she's mimicking a Korean drama. Mother said Haruka was to be blamed for everything because she had never loved my brother at all. Even so, she accepted his proposal because marrying him seemed like the easiest way to turn around her messed up life. Even if she didn't love him, once they married, she should have done her wifely duty, but she didn't allow Koji to ever touch her. She must not have wanted another child. Must have been the after effects of the violence that she suffered from the Yakuza guy. Not being able to stay anywhere overnight and only able to cook the dishes that men like were all due to trauma from the earlier time. She must have been quite traumatized. But still, if only she had talked to us about it. Instead, she chose the cruelest method of all. She wanted a peaceful life but didn't want a man, my brother, to ever touch her. So she offered up Wakaba. Koji couldn't have been hoping for that. If she had opened up to him, I know he would have understood. But step by step, Haruka drove Koji to it, completely ignoring what it would do to her very own daughter, her flesh and blood. Who knows, maybe Haruka wasn't even aware she was suffering the after effects of the trauma. Wakaba was lovely, pale skin, chiseled features, slim, long arms and legs. The very image of her Yakuza father, apparently. But for Haruka, Wakaba was nothing more than just a tool she used to find her own happiness. Whenever Wakaba came up in our conversation, it always made my mother cry. We can't ever see her again, but she is alive. The children's home is in our prefecture, I heard. So who knows? Someday, somewhere, I might run into her. And that would be enough. Enough for a bear family. That incident wasn't Haruka's fault. We had forgotten what our grandfather had taught us. Had tried to reach for something above our station in life, and we were punished for it. If only Koji had not been so prideful as to think he alone could make an unhappy person happy and had married a healthy, straightforward person who would make a good companion for a bear, they would have been blessed with a cute child. And then everyone would have taken good care of that child, because no one had a problem having a cute little girl come to a bear's house. They are overjoyed by it, in fact. That's why no one noticed what was really going on. No. Seiji knew. He told us it was better for Koji not to marry her if only he had made his case more forcefully. But the real one to be blamed is me. I should have known a long time ago something was wrong. I have spent Exia? No, Reckless Tree. Welcome. Please take a seat. We are reading something very fucked up now. Pretty good. Thank you for being here. But the real one to be blamed is me. I should have known a long time ago. One moment, please. I should have known a long time ago something was wrong. I've spent the last 15 years thinking of nothing else. Instead, I wore those cute shoes, went to a beauty parlor, ate a tart, and become this little girl's friend. If Emily's mother knew all this, she would definitely take revenge. Probably shoot the bear. She's rich, so I bet she owns a gun. I'm not afraid. Just wondering if there's anything else I can say that would be helpful. Oh, one more thing. This was last year when Seiji stayed at our house. In the middle of the night, I was passing by the guest room on the way to the toilet. I overheard him say to Misato, "Do you remember 14 years ago, Misato, when we arrived at the station? You turned around, to look at the man you had just passed. And I was so jealous and said, so you like that type, huh? And you said, he looks like a teacher I had in elementary school. Isn't this the guy? I heard the sound of pages in the magazine being flipped open, and then Misato said, that's him. I remember now. I was wondering, why is Mr. Nanjo in a place like this? Because I heard there was an accident. He quit teaching and moved to Kansai area. A boy in his free school had set a fire. I'm sure that was him. It's hard to think that he would run a place like that. But then again, he was always such a fine teacher with a strong sense of duty. Could this be a clue? I mean, Misato saw someone she had never expected to see, right? What if he were the murderer? Oh, that's right. I forgot about the French doll affair. The pervert who stole the French doll was the one who murdered Emily. So that's why Seiji asked me about it on the way back from the mini mart. Someone who lives in Kansai, even farther away from Tokyo, isn't going to come all the way to this town to steal French doll, is he? It's too late. And there are only 5 more days until the statute of limitations run out. I wanted to ask, are you really a professional counselor? You remind me more and more of Emily's mother, but I'm just imagining things, I suppose. I'm sorry, but my head is splitting. Can I go home now? It's still raining a little. I would like them to come to get me, but I don't have a cell phone. So, could you call them for me? I don't have a cell phone number on me. It's at home. Call the welfare section at the city hall if you would. And that is the end of chapter 3. I'm gonna continue chapter 4. Let me finish up my coffee and refill my tea, and I'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying with me today. Give me about 2 minutes. I feel like this story is so much more fucked up than Confession. This story is a lot of fucked up. Ugh, it's very fucked up. It's kind of disgusting to read through, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's stuff that, like, it's definitely stuff that, like, people try to avoid a lot, but I'm glad that we have such a daring author who wouldn't avoid such topics, you know. Alright. Okay. Chapter 4. Let's go, guys. How are you guys feeling so far? Yeah. Okay. I'll get comfortable in my chair. Oh, thank you. Ch.3. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go, bitch. Sorry, not bitch. Let's go, friends. Right now we are continuing Penance by Kanae Minato, chapter 4. 10 months and 10 days. My contractions are still 20 minutes apart, so it looked like they won't let me come into the standby room quite yet. So we could talk here if you don't mind. I know a waiting room in a big hospital in the middle of the night is dark and kind of creepy, but no one will bother us, so it might actually be a good place to talk about that incident. There's a vending machine too, but I was wondering, have you ever had canned coffee from the machine? Really? You like it? I never would have guessed. There are 5 other women here tonight with contractions 10 minutes apart, and the staff is kind of busy. The nurse had this sour look on her face and told me, "You didn't need to come here yet." I didn't plan to come here this early myself, and just basically stopped by to say hello. But don't you think that was rude of her? I thought about giving birth was supposed to be a more sacred event, something people should appreciate more, especially with the declining birth rate in this region. It wasn't this crowded when I came in here for my last checkup. I wonder why is it tonight of all nights. I always feel as if I'm an extra in life, but I never imagined that when it comes to giving birth, I'll be treated as if I was on an assembly line. Just my luck. My due date is still a little way off. And at my checkup last week, I was told that the baby might be a little late. But today, I went out at night, which I don't do a lot. And maybe the waxing and waning of the moon had an impact. I hear it often does. My due date is on August 14. A year has 365 days, so doesn't it make you wonder why this day of all days? Just one day earlier or later would be enough, but the day the doctor said, so there's nothing I can do about it. Just one day earlier or later would be enough, but that's the day the doctor said, so there's nothing I can do about it. A surprising number of people don't know how to accurately calculate the normal gestation period. The notion of 10 months and 10 days that people talk about is, to begin with, wrong.
For example, say your doctor tells you that your due date is October 10. Then most people would simply subtract 10 months and 10 days and figure out it was January 1st when the couple had intercourse. But that's not the case. You don't figure the due date as 10 months 10 days from the time you had sex, but rather 40 weeks or 280 days from the start of your last period. It's a bit complicated, but what you do is subtract 3 from the month when your last period started. If you can't subtract 3, then add 9, then add 7 to the day when your last period started. So in the example I gave, the day the last period started would be on January 3rd. So the sex that led to the pregnancy would mostly likely be between January 15 and the 19th, counting 1 week for the period and 1 week afterward for ovulation. You have given birth. So I know I don't need to explain this to you. Most people don't really care about figuring exactly which act of intercourse led to their pregnancy, but a friend of mine from high school, Yamagata, nearly got divorced because of this. Yamagata got married to a man who is serious and conscientious type. And when she showed signs of being pregnant, she went to the hospital and told that she was 3 months pregnant. She happily reported this to her husband. Her husband was overjoyed too and circled the due date on the calendar. But when he flipped back through the calendar 10 months 10 days to calculate when the child had been conceived, he saw it was when he had been on a business trip. And that's when he started to have his doubts. "Are you sure it's my child?" he demanded. "Did you have an affair when I was out of town?" He started to press Yamagata, insisting on her showing him her cell phone, and things quickly escalated. For her part, she had simply been told the due date and didn't know the correct way of calculating conception, so she couldn't explain it away easily. "I never ever had an affair," she countered. All she could do was repeat that denial. Soon, she started to wonder if her husband was accusing her because he had something himself to feel guilty about, and she started venting her suspicions about him, and they ended up having a huge fight. Neither one backed down, her husband finally announcing that if he found out that it wasn't his child, he would divorce her. I don't know if you can do something like that when you are only 3 months along, but the next day, the two of them trooped off to the hospital and insisted on getting a DNA test. The nurse there explained how to calculate the due date, and they realized that they had made a huge mistake. The baby had been conceived the night the husband had came back from a 2 months business trip, the first night back together when they had made passionate love after his long absence. So they had gotten worked up over nothing. Come to think of it, Yamagata worked at Adachi manufacturing plant. Not that that matters, but it's good to have like those two getting everything out in the open. Their doubts about each other were erased in one day. It would be awful for a woman just because problems figuring out a due date to know her husband had doubts festering forever his heart about an infidelity that never ever happened. Therefore, there are other people who are the opposite, who breathe a sigh of relief when they miscalculate. Like my brother-in-law, my older sister's husband. Subtract 10 months and 10 days from August 14, and you get November 4th. He and I slept together on November 21st, so he figured out it's not his child. That's what he thought, or rather what he convinced himself of. And I never told him the baby is his. I told my parents and sister that I couldn't reveal who the man was, that I had an affair with one of my bosses at work, and they believed it. And my brother-in-law told me, the child in my womb is 100% my brother-in-law's. But I can't blame him, since I was the one who seduced him. My sister first brought him to our house 4 years ago, and I've been in love with him ever since. What do I love about him? More than looks or personality, it's his workplace, his profession, I mean. I came to love him because he's a police officer. I've always enjoyed detective dramas on TV, but my special feelings for police started on the day Emily was murdered. Thank you, Reckless, for that comment. You must have heard this from the other three girls. But right after the murder, Maki told me to go to the local police station. It was on the way to school and I passed by there every day, but this was the first time I had ever stepped inside. I had never lost anything or ever done anything particularly bad, so there was no reason to. Though Emily did treat me as a thief. You didn't know that? I'm sorry. But could we take a 5-minute break? My stomach's killing me. Welcome back, Reckless Abandon. I haven't seen your name in a while. Oh, real gets juicy drama from this chapter, huh? One of the girl who witnessed the murder in the beginning had an affair with her older sister's husband. Ooh, some K-drama shit going on, bruh. Let's do it. I think Maki spoke about the way we played Explorers, but wasn't it amazing that everything she said at the PTA meeting was out now on the internet? Apparently, a parent was recording it all, which made me wonder, are you maybe recording this right now? Not that it matters. I was the one who discovered that we could get into that abandoned cottage. Our family grow grapes, and the thing that I hated the most was helping out with the farm work. I thought it was totally unfair that just because I was born into this farm family, I had to, for free, do the kind of labor I would never had to do if I had been born into an ordinary white-collar family. Not that I hated everything about it, because of the cottage. The back of our fields face... Oh, someone's here. Hey, Whiskey! You're late. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Okay, where did I stop? Okay. Not that I hated everything about it. Because of the cottage, the back of our fields faced the cottage ground, and whenever I was roped into helping out in the fields, I would take a break sometimes and wander around the grounds of the cottage as if I owned the place. The outside of the cottage was quite sophisticated, and I tried many times to get a peek inside, figuring it too had to be gorgeous. But the windows and doors were boarded up tight. If you took a snack or lunch and ate it underneath the large white birch tree next to the cottage, wouldn't you feel as if you were a girl from a foreign land having a tea party? It was my sister who came up with this idea. My sister, 3 years older than me, was good at thinking of ways to have a good time. I really loved my sister back then. We should take food that suits the cottage, my sister said, and she baked cookies and made some fancy sandwiches the night before we went to work in the fields. I said fancy, but they were actually quite ordinary. Supermarkets in the sticks don't sell any kinds of unusual hams or cheeses, so sandwiches had just boiled eggs, roasted ham, cucumbers, and the like. But she wrapped them up like candy in a cute wrapping paper and made them heart-shaped. Then, she placed them in a hamper lined with strawberry print handkerchief. What with her bad asthma, my sister seldom were asked to help out in the fields, so she made all of this just for me. That's right, asthma. People, people who get it, even if they live in a town with the cleanest air in Japan. One day, at the beginning of June, during a break from farm work, I headed to the cottage with some cookies that she had baked. The fields faced the rear of the cottage, but on this day I noticed that something was a little different. The rear door, usually covered with a large board nailed over it, was now exposed. It was dark brown with gold-colored doorknob. Maybe it's open, I thought excitedly and turned the knob, but it was locked. Disappointed, I looked at the keyhole-shaped hole below the knob and remembered a TV drama where someone used a hairpin to unlock the door. I took the hairpin I used to pin back of my bag and insert into the keyhole. I wasn't expecting it to work, but enjoyed how excited it made me feel. I moved the pin around the keyhole and felt it snag on something. Then, slowly turned it and heard a click as the door lock opened. It didn't even take a minute. I slowly pushed open the heavy door and inside was the kitchen. There were few built-in shelves and no plates or pots and pans. In back was a bar counter. I felt as if I had suddenly wandered into a house in a foreign land. I wasn't brave enough to actually go inside. I'll tell my sister about it first, was my first thought. But I hesitated to bring her to such a dusty place. With her symptoms got worse, it was a real pain. So instead, the next day I told Maki about it. Maki always had great ideas about how to have fun. Not as many good ideas as my sister though. Sometimes, when we played there, were lots of kids with us. But we'll get into trouble if the older kids at school or parents found out that we had snuck into the cottage. So we decided to keep the number low and only invite our classmate from West District of town. The same girls who were there on the day of the murder. As soon as I unlocked the door and the five of us, with bated breath, slipped inside, each of us started to frolic around the place. It was the first time I'd ever laid eyes on a real fireplace, a canopied bed, and a clawfoot bathtub. There were lots of things at Emily's house too I had never seen before, but nothing feels as empty as wonderful things belongs to someone else. That cottage wasn't mine, of course, but it also didn't belong to any of the five of us. And besides that, even Emily was amazed, never having seen a fireplace before. The cottage was on our shared castle, our hidden hideout. Emily had an interesting proposal now that we had this secret hideout. Let's hide treasures inside the fireplace, she said. Not simple treasures, but make them keepsakes of someone and write a letter addressed to that person with each treasure we hide. We were at the age when it's easy to make up things, so we totally got engrossed in this game. Brought our treasures and stationery from home and plunked down in the living room to write our letters. I addressed mine to my sister, who I pretended to have died. Dear sister, thank you for always being so kind to me. I'll do my best so Mom and Dad won't get too sad. So please have a good long rest in heaven. That's what I wrote, as I recall. As I wrote it, it really did feel as if my sister had died, and I teared up a little bit. I put the letter along with a pressed flower bookmark she had bought me on a school trip into a pretty tin that Emily brought from home, that she said she originally had cookies in it. Each of us sealed our letter without showing it to each other, but we did show our treasures to each other. Sae put in a handkerchief, Maki a mechanical pencil, Akiko a key holder. Typical kid-like items, but Emily was different. Her treasure was a silver ring with a red stone in it. Every country kids like us could tell that it wasn't a toy. By then, we should have even been used to all the expensive things that Emily owned, but that ring really captivated us. Can I try it out? I asked casually, holding my hands, but Emily said, no one but me is ever allowed to wear this ring. It sounded like something a princess in a fairy tale would say. She carefully put it away in its case. Well then, you shouldn't have brought it, I muttered, half annoyed. But as Emily bent over, hiding the cookie tin with all our treasures inside the fireplace, she seemed to have heard me. It was a week after this that Emily came to my house. It was Sunday afternoon and it had been raining since morning. I was laying around in my room reading comic books, bemoaning the fact that we weren't going to be playing in the cottage today when Emily appeared. We weren't particularly close, so I was surprised that she would visit me by herself. I went to the front door and Emily said in a low but agitated voice, Mama's looking for the ring. Yuka, help me go get it from the cottage. She meant her treasure. Did you take it without asking your mother? I asked. It was in my mother's closet, but it was my ring, she said. I found it hard to grasp. In our house, Mother often said she would give us rings when we got older, her own engagement ring to my sister, and a ring she got from my grandmother to me. Probably Emily meant something like that. I soon understood why she had come to see me. I was the only one who could use a hairpin to unlock the cottage door. When the other kids saw me take out the hairpin from my bangs and unlock the door, they all said they wanted to try it, and they each took turns. But for some reason, no one else could manage it. Their hairpins were all the same. You just need to snag it onto the hollow back in the hole and turn it. But no matter how much I explained it to them, no one could find the spot. I didn't expect Akiko to, but Maki and Emily never had any trouble solving any problems at school, so I was surprised that they couldn't get it. Yuka, you're really clever, Saya told them. I was always so when it comes to most things, and I had never thought of myself being clever, though I was always pretty good with my hands. I didn't have a strong grip, but I was able to open bottles top that were on really tight. But I was always able to open bottle tops that were on really tight, could untie ropes that had gotten all knotted, and was always good at putting together a little do-it-yourself projects that came with manga magazines. Emily and I headed to the cottage. Were able to open the rear door with no problem and went on to the living room where the fireplace was. Thank you, Yuka. Just wait a second, Emily said, stuck her face into the fireplace, and after a moment, she turned around. It's gone! We had set the cookie tin in the right-hand corner in front, but when I looked in, I couldn't find it. You're right, it's gone, I said. I looked out from the fireplace to find Emily glaring at me. It's you, Yuka, isn't it? At first I couldn't figure out what she meant. Seeing Emily's cold eyes, though, I thought I finally understood she was accusing me. I couldn't understand why, but I insisted loudly. It wasn't me. But Emily yelled back. It had to be you, Yuka. You are the one who can unlock the door. You were angry I didn't let you wear the ring. That's why you took it. That's stealing. And I know you have stolen other things. You stole Sai's eraser. I saw you secretly using the eraser she thought she had lost. If you don't give me back the ring, I'm going to tell Papa. Emily started crying loudly. Give me back the ring, you thief, you thief. There were a lot of things I felt like saying to her, but I figured none of them would do any good. What kind of things? The eraser that Saya lost was the same kind that all girls from the West District had. At a Christmas party for kids that year, before we had all gotten them as presents. After Emily heard that Saya had lost her eraser, she just happened to see me using the identical one, that's all. I wasn't using it in secret or anything. Now I wonder if Emily would have had the same thoughts about Maki or Akiko if one of them had been using the eraser. What sort of eyes are covetous eyes, do you think? My mother would often tell me that since I was a child, that's the kind of eyes that I have. My sisters and I have the same single-lidded type of eye, and I was the only one. She said that too. We were walking down the street once, my mother and we passed by a classmate with an ice cream cone. I just waved at my classmate the way you expected, but my mother scolded me. Stop staring at what other people have, she said. That's acting greedy. She seemed disgusted. I mean, it was a hot day. I did think that it would be nice to have some ice cream myself, but it wasn't as if I were dying to get some. If you feel that way, I thought, you should have given me better vision. When I was in 3rd and 4th grade, my vision got really bad, and the glasses I wore didn't really correct it well. So I was always squinting at things. So that must be why she thought of that. Sorry, I gotten sidetracked. I was talking about Emily's accusation. Emily wouldn't stop crying and it made me really upset, so I said, I've had enough. Left the cottage and went home. It was the evening the same day that Emily came to my house along with his father. Mother showed them in. I was so worried they would accuse me of stealing that I hid out in the bathroom. But then, my mother called me in a very gentle voice to coax me out. I went to the living room and my eyes met with a goggled-eyed alien. Your husband. That's what the kids in town used to secretly call him. You are laughing. But they used to call you that too. I'm sorry. Let me continue. The two of them were there to give me back my treasure, they said. When Emily was left behind at the cottage, she didn't know what to do because she couldn't lock it up by herself. She couldn't tell her mother about it because she would know that Emily had taken the ring and would be angry at her. So she used a payphone near the cottage to call Adachi Manufacturing and ask her father to come and help her. He was at work even though it was his day off. Her father hurried right over from work, and as they stood in front of the cottage, Emily was telling him the whole story when a real estate agent from the next town over drove up. The real estate agent had earlier brought a client from Tokyo who wanted to start a free school here to see the cottage, and after he showed it to him the morning, the man had another appointment and elsewhere in the afternoon, so the agent drove him to the station and was stopping by here one more time afterward. He was going to put in more secure lock on the rear door to keep out intruders. The client had apparently found the tin with our treasures. You shouldn't go in like that anymore, the real estate agent said, and gave her back the tin. Emily held out my bookmark that had been in the tin, as well as a large box of sweets from a well-known store in Tokyo, and said, "They are really good. I hope you enjoy them." She was smiling at me, but she didn't apologize for treating me like a thief. She thought she was the one who suffered the most, and that people would forgive whatever she said, that over time they would completely forget it. She was just like you. I never told anybody about this, but I figured that the sweets that she gave me were bribed to keep my mouth shut about being treated as a thief. At first, I refused to take them. No, thanks, I don't need those, I told her. The sweets were wrapped out beautifully, and I really did want to try them. But I planned to refuse until Emily apologized. But my mother butted in and accepted them. Emily and her father had come out of their way to see us, so you shouldn't act like that, my mother scolded me. I'm sorry she's so unfriendly, she said, bowing her head. I hope you'll still be friends. Emily and her father went home, satisfied, but I was left feeling it was all so unfair, and mother scolded me even more after they left. Not because the fact that we had snuck into a cottage came to light because of Emily, it was because of my sister. I wanted to go into that cottage too. Why didn't you tell me about it? And I said, I figured out it was too dusty. Well, sorry, I have asthma, she said sarcastically and then burst out laughing. Why do you have to act so proud in front of your sister? My mother said, upset with me, but I wasn't acting proud at all. After Emily and her father had left, my sister had come down the stairs wondering what was going on. My mother had told her, Yuka and those girls snuck into an abandoned house behind our field. It was about to defend myself, but my sister got the first word in. It's not Yuka's fault, she said. I should have been more patient. Hearing this, my mother said, It's not your fault, Mayu. And she let my sister chose first from the sweets. And she let my sister chose first from the sweets Emily had brought. My mother had always felt really bad about Mayu's being born so sickly, and apparently felt bad too about never having given my father a son. But having given birth to a nearsighted girl like me, that never seemed to faze her. Ando, no worries. You can always rewatch the VOD. Nearsightedness is from my father's side of the family, but neither my sister's condition nor father's was mother's fault. I never heard either of them blame me. Yeah, you can. Don't worry about it, Ando. Just enjoy. Don't worry. It's my... Okay. I never heard either of them blame her. I think she just liked to blame herself. Masochism, maybe? Something like that. Still, don't you think it's awful that when her daughter got caught up in a murder, she didn't run right over to her to be with her? We finally worked out our way back to the murder. But before I go on, could you give me another 5 minutes? After Akiko and I split up that day at the rear entrance of the school, I ran straight to the police station. The policeman in charge of the small substation changed every 2 or 3 years, but this time it was a young man named Mr. Ando, a huge slab of a man who would look good in a judo gi. I had been ordered to tell him about the murder, but I was scared that he might get mad about a child like me coming inside alone. Mr. Ando, why are you in the book? Mr. Ando was talking with an old lady who had come in to tell him something. And when I saw how kind he was to her, I breathed a sigh of relief. I had come to report a murder, and I had to tell him right away that I should have interrupted them. But it was my first time in a police station, and I studiously stood off in a corner, waiting my turn as if I were in a hospital waiting room. Mr. Ando must have thought I didn't have anything very important to tell him. In a gentle voice, not at all keeping with his appearance, he said, "Please take a seat over there," motioning me to sit in a folding chair next to the old lady. The old lady was talking about the theft about the French doll. The person who stole them had to be from Tokyo, she was saying in an older dialect that only old folks use, and I was hoping she would finish soon. I suddenly remembered who she was and recalled that the grandchild in her house had been bragging how she was going to Disneyland with her family over the Obon holiday. The old lady must have felt lonely with everyone gone, I thought, and I felt a little sorry for her. This was right after Emily was killed, of course. Are you disappointed I didn't feel scared because of the murder like the other kids? Truthfully, I didn't feel scared yet. It wasn't that I was unfeeling or anything, or because Emily had accused me of being a thief. It was simply because I hadn't gotten a good look at what had actually happened. 2 days before the murder, I had been cleaning house before our relatives came to visit and had stepped on glass I had normally wore. I stepped on the glasses I normally wore. So I was wearing an older pair of glasses that I couldn't see very well. So all I could make out in the dim changing room was Emily was lying on the floor, and that wasn't enough to terrify me. It was only after when I went back to the pool that I realized that something terrible had taken place. The old lady left and the policeman turned to me. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said kindly. "So what's the matter?" "My friend collapsed at the school pool," I said, describing to him what I had seen. "You should have told me right away," the policeman said, and made a call for an ambulance. He may have thought it was drowning. Right after that, he put me in his patrol car, and we headed to the school. The policeman had finally understood that something alarming had happened. When we arrived at the pool, he saw you. You were sitting there in the boys' changing room, holding Emily to you, calling her name over and over. When I saw this, it hit me, too, that Emily was actually dead. It was probably better, in order to preserve the crime scene, not to hold the body like that, something the policeman gently hinted at, and I doubt his voice got through you. There were one more person there, Sae, but she was crouched down outside the changing room, eyes shut, hands held over her ears, and she didn't respond when we called her. So it was up to me to explain what had led up to this. We were playing volleyball in the shade by the gym when a man in work clothes came over and asked if one of us would help him check the ventilation in the pool changing rooms. He took Emily off with him. We went on playing for a while, but when 6 o'clock music Green Sleeves started playing and she hadn't come back, we went on to check her. That's when we found her lying in the boys' changing room. The policeman listened intently, taking a note in his pocket notebook. The ambulance arrived soon after, and a patrol car from the prefectural police and people in the neighborhood started coming to see what was going on. The area around the pool was soon swarming with people. Sae's mother ran up in a panic and carried her home on her back. Right after, Akiko's and Maki's mother came, and I remember Akiko's mother being really upset, saying, "My daughter came home bleeding from her head." Maki's mother loudly called out her name, looking for her, but things were in such an uproar, neither one of these mothers stood out from the crowd. In the midst of all this, I was left alone. I was one of the people directly involved in the murder, yet no one paid any attention to me. The local policeman reported to the prefectural police, who had arrived, what I had told him. Maybe the mother is among the crowd, I thought, and might take me away without anyone realizing it. There were so many people milling about, but yet no one would rescue me. Could anything be more frightening? Wanting the policeman to pay attention to me, I tried my hardest to think if there was anything else I could report. I retrieved the volleyball from in front of the gym and handed it to him, telling him there might be fingerprints on it, and reenacted in the girls' changing room next door how Emily had been lying on the ground. I was desperate to be noticed. As I was doing all this, the prefectural police came over to me and asked a lot of questions about the murderer. I was overjoyed that someone finally noticed me, and tried my best to recall through the details, especially about the man's facial features. Totally escaped me. It was less than I couldn't recall than that. As I said earlier, with my bad vision, I hadn't seen much to begin with. As we tried to reach 100 passes in a row, I was the one who blew it and sent the ball flying towards where the murderer stood. If I had been wearing my usual glasses, I would have seen his face better. Maybe not down to the little moles or scars or anything, but at least the main outlines of his features. But I had not, and it frustrated me to no end. I was angry at my mother, the one who had always told me to stand up on a chair and wipe down the dirty shelf because it was too dusty for my sister to do so, and angry that while half the town seemed to have gathered at the school grounds, my mother still had not shown up. Our house was on the West District, but was pretty far from school, and maybe she had only just found out about this terrible news. She should be here any minute now, I thought, and was waiting for her. I was upset at her, but I still love her a lot. The investigation went on until late at night. At around 9 p.m., the policeman took me home. When I opened the door, my mother saw the policeman. She looked sheepish. "Oh, I'm so sorry you had to go through all this trouble," she said. "I was just about to get her. Mrs. Shinohara phoned me that something terrible had happened at the school, but the thing is, my older girl hasn't been feeling very well since this morning. Yes, she has very bad asthma. She couldn't eat a bite, but in the evening she said she might take a little bit of vegetable soup, so I was just preparing it for her. It was my special old cold potage that she managed to get down no matter how poorly she was feeling. And my husband is the eldest son, so as you see, we are pretty busy with relatives on Obon." A person had just been murdered, yet my mother could smile and carry on like this. I started to cry. I'm not sure if it was because I felt miserable or sad. I remembered you sobbing loudly as you held your dead daughter. If my sister had been killed, I'm sure my mother would sob like that too. But if it was me who was murdered, she probably wouldn't even show up. My father? He had been drinking with the male relatives all afternoon, and by evening had basically passed out. If he had been up, I doubt whether he would have come to get me either. "Too much trouble," I can imagine him saying. He was the heir in the family and had been excessively. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much." Father, drinking with the milk. If he had been... If he had been up, I doubt whether he would have come to get me either. "Too much trouble," I can imagine him saying. Okay, have fun! He was the heir in the family and had been excessively indulged growing up, but when it comes to any child who wasn't going to be his heir, especially his disappointing younger daughter, it seemed as if he couldn't care less. Not that he had a ton of money to pass on, he certainly didn't. As I kept on crying, my mother hit me with an additional verbal blow. "You were in the 4th grade, she said. "You should have come home on your own." Then I wouldn't have been so embarrassed. I heard a voice inside me add, "It didn't matter to them if I was alive or not. And if my parents were like this, it was like my own blurry view of the world. Nobody else was about to notice me either, no matter how good their vision is." As I was thinking all this, the policeman beside me said to my mother, "I'm the one who kept her from coming back. Please accept my apology." He turned to me, bent his huge frame over, and gave me a pat on the head. "You must be so scared," he said. He added, "So thank you for telling me all about it. Let us policemen handle everything else. You go and rest up." His large, rugged, warm hand nearly enveloped my whole head. I never forgot what it felt like. And ever since that day, I've been searching for a hand that would make me feel that way. The biggest change after the murder was my sister's attitude towards me. My mother, perhaps feeling bad that she was the only mother who had not gone to get her daughter, started being unusually kind to me. Are you hungry? She asked. Is there anything special you would like to eat? Shall I go to the video shop in the next town and get a fun video for you? That's all about the size of it, but it was at first her being solicitous. Okay then, I would like gratin, I told her. But that night, on the dinner table were all cold noodles, steamed chicken, and shredded dried plum salad. Your sister can't eat hot things, Mother explained. They make her asthma act up. And as to the video, my sister hated noisy anime, so in the end, Mother didn't rent one for me. So it was all about my sister. I mean, everybody figured it would have been better if the one who had been killed was me. Unable to stand it anymore, I knocked over the bowl of noodles and screamed. I had never acted like that before. I had always thought my sister had it bad and I had to be patient. But now, it was clearly me who was having a hard time, and that set off my sister, who burst into tears. I'm so sorry, she said. It's all my fault. If only I were healthier, Yuka wouldn't have to feel this way. And I could have made gratin for Yuka myself, since she was feeling so down. I wish I hadn't been born like this with this body. Why do I have to be the one who suffers like this? Why? Mom, tell me. As she tearfully complained to my mother said, I'm sorry, Mayu. Forgive me. And held my sister to her tight and burst out crying loudly. This was the day after the murder. After that, whenever I had to go with my mother to be interviewed by the police, my sister's symptoms would act up, and Maki's mother would take me instead. News about Emily's murder went on the TV, and my father asked me what the police had questioned me about. My sister would say that it was so awful she had lost all her appetite and lay down her chopsticks. Gradually, the murder became a taboo topic since it upsets Mayu. It's just as before. She was the one everyone worried about, and I was just basically a non-entity. I knew complaining about it is pointless, but that didn't mean it didn't affect me. Far from it. I grew more anxious by the day. I was sure the police would soon catch the murderer, and there were no sign of impending arrest, which may have been, in a sense, because of us. We were just children, but still, there were 4 of us, witnesses, and yet all 4 said that we couldn't remember the man's face. I could understand how Sae, basically a coward, and Akiko, who was always kind of spacey and now had a head injury, might not recall. But I couldn't believe that Maki, too, wouldn't remember. I mean, even I could remember everything I had been able to see. But I don't think that was the sole reason the investigation hit a snag. The day of the murder had been Obon. If the murderer had come to town by car, normally someone would have noticed an unfamiliar vehicle. But during Obon, families came in droves, more of them in cars than by train. The town filled with out-of-town license plates and rental cars, so I bet there weren't many reports of suspicious cars. Plus, even if people saw someone they didn't recognize walking in town, unless they were cold-splattered or something, they had just think it had to be somebody's relative visiting. So if the murderer had changed out of his work clothes and stuffed them into a Boston bag, people would only put him down as an out-of-town relative visiting for the holiday. Until the year before, people might have wondered who a stranger was if they had happened to run across him on the street, even during Obon. But after the Adachi manufacturing plant was built, the town was crawling with people we didn't even know. So I think fewer people pay attention to strangers, sort of like the indifference of city folks. Maybe being indifferent feels good once you are used to it, but I was yearning for the opposite, someone to pay attention to me What came to mind then was the policeman who took me home that night of the murder, Mr. Ando. I knew if anyone would, he would listen to everything I had to say and protect me from the murderer. I began desperately to think of excuses to visit the police station. Someone like you, who's friendly and sociable, might wonder why I had to have a reason to visit. You would just stroll in, say hello with me, and chat about school and other topics, but that was beyond me. If I had taken a step inside, he would ask, "What's the matter?" and I would be unable to answer. I think I would have run out of the door, apart from the way they treated my sister since we were a farming family. Ever since I can remember, on Saturdays I was told, "We are busy, don't bother us." There was no one to teach me that I didn't need a special reason to act like a little spoiled sometimes, to want people to pay attention to me. At first, I visited the police station to report on things I thought might be clues in the murders. For instance, though I couldn't remember the murderer's face, his voice reminded me of that of a certain actor, and that the fact that though there were 20-something homes in the West District that had French dolls, the ones that were stolen were all from our top 10 best list. Not the kind of information that would be very helpful, and in less than 5 visits, I would have run out of material. I went to the police station too when I found coins dropped on the road, but that didn't happen so often. So I started using 100 yen coins from my own purse. Now that I think about it, it's like one of those host bars, paying for a man to be with you and talk to you. And actually, about 10 years after this, I was really into the kind of bar for a while. It's only now really that I realized why I wanted to go to those places. You know, I truly hate you. But I can't say I'm enjoying this. But when I talk with someone, I begin to realize things I wouldn't on my own. After the murder, the 4 of us didn't play together again and never once talked together about the murder. But maybe if we had talked more about these awful things, wouldn't have had happened. Awful things, in my case. It was 6 months after the murder when I shoplifted for the first time. Oh, it hurts. Please give me another 5 minutes. I ended up estranged from the girls I played with every day. And my sister, always so kind to me, now treated me like an enemy. I was convinced all over again that my parents didn't love me, and eventually I ran out of reasons to visit the police station. I was truly, truly lonely. One day, I needed a special 4B pencil for school, for drawing class, but all I had in my purse was 30 yen. "I need a pencil for drawing class, I told my mother, and she said, "I just gave you your allowance, use that." I didn't tell her the truth, but I went to the stationery store only to find out that the pencil was 50 yen. The stationery store was a small shop near school run by an older lady. The pencils were in upright plastic cylinder display. When I took one out and I thought, what should I do? What should I do? Clutching the pencil tightly, and I slipped it into the sleeve of my pad jacket. I couldn't believe that what I've done and turned away towards the door to hide from the shopkeeper. I nearly screamed. There, beyond the glass door, stood my sister, facing me. When she stepped inside, she said, "You came to buy a 4B pencil, right? I have one, so you can just use that. Did you already buy one?" Silently, I shook my head. "Good. I came to buy a mechanical pencil. Why don't I buy one for you too? I doubt the other kids at elementary school have one. You can brag about it. Let's get some kind, but in different colors. Which would you like, pink or light blue?" My sister smiled and held out 2 cute mechanical pencils to me, each costing 300 yen. This was the first time she had smiled at me since the murder, and it puzzled me. So I just stared silently at the pencils. Why was she being so nice to me today? Did something good happen to her? Hesitantly, I was reaching out for the blue pencil when I felt something hard jab against my arm. The pencil inside my sleeve. Maybe she had seen me steal it and planned to tell mother about it when she got home. If my shoplifting came out, they would fawn over her even more and act even more disgusted with me. My sister could hardly wait for that. Should I take out the pencil from my sleeve and tell her that I didn't need the mechanical pencil and ask her to buy this one instead? But I had no idea what she would say if I took the stolen pencil out. As I agonized over this, my sister was browsing through the selection of erasers and colored ballpoint pens, and unable to stand the guilt, or rather, feeling the despair of my sister having caught me red-handed shoplifting, I ran out of the shop. I didn't go home, and having no friends I could visit, before I realized it, I was headed towards the police station. It was a little strange to go to a police station right after shoplifting, but I understood that was the only place that would take me in. I go to the police station but did hesitate about going inside. Mr. Ando, though, spotted me and called me to come in. Hello there, Yuka. Sure it's cold today, isn't it? Come inside and warm up. It wasn't. Why did you come here? What's wrong? Did something happen? Just, sure, it's cold. I took the pencil out of my sleeve. I stole this, I said. I'm so sorry. I burst out crying. I didn't do that in order to be forgiven or anything. He could have gotten angry. That was fine. That was okay with me. In fact, that's what I wanted. But Mr. Ando wasn't angry. He sat me down in the chair next to the kerosene stove and took out a clear plastic bag from his drawer. Inside were close to 100 coins. These aren't coins people actually lost, are they? He said. I think you brought them here, pretending someone had dropped them. I'm sorry we haven't been able to find the murderer. I know that made you scared. You don't need to do something like that. You can come in here anytime you like. You want. You don't need a special reason. Now, take this and go pay for what you took. Tell the shopkeeper you forgot your purse and went to get it, and she'll forgive you. Mr. Ando put the bag of coins into my hands, his large hands covering mine, and the bag felt as reassuring as it did the day of the murder. It made me feel I wasn't alone. I thanked Mr. Ando and went to the stationery shop, but the lady who ran it told me that my sister had paid for me. The lady hadn't noticed that I had shoplifted, and my sister had told everything and apologized for me. What a wonderful sister you have, the old lady said. When I got home, my mother met me at the door and said she wouldn't let me in. Instead, she locked me inside the shed. Children who still stay inside here until morning, she said. There was no light there or bedding, but when I took out the coins from the plastic bag, I recalled the feeling of the policeman's hand. I wasn't frightened or sad at all. What did make me sad was Mr. Ando leaving the following month. He had passed his exam and was reassigned to the prefectural police headquarters, a promotion for him but a terrible blow for me. One day, on the day he was to leave, I was standing there mute, head hung, outside the police station, unable to think of a nice way to say goodbye. When he saw me, Mr. Ando said, "A veteran policeman will be taking my place, so come see him anytime if anything is worrying you." The man who took his place, though an older stoop-over man with a family of his own, didn't look very reliable, so I never visited the police station again. And that's why. This might sound self-serving, I know. I frequently shoplifted after that. I didn't do it because it was fun, or because I didn't have enough spending money. I just wanted someone to pay attention to me. They hadn't come to get me when there was a murder, but I figured if the police called my parents to come to the station to get me, they would have to. But maybe my dexterity works against me, for hardly any of the shop owners ever noticed that I was shoplifting. The only ones who did notice talked to me were a group of junior high school kids hung around the town till late at night. Finally, I had a group to be with. This was the year after the murder. It was 2 years after when you called us to your home. 3 years after the murder, you called the 4 of us, now 13 years old, to your place and told us something unbelievable. Girls at that age, even if they are living completely ordinary lives, were full of doubts and anxieties about their identity. But you called us murderers and told us we must either find the man who murdered Emily or else perform an act of penance that would satisfy you. Otherwise, you would get revenge. Did you ever really consider what effect this passing emotional outburst of yours have on children? After you moved back to Tokyo, didn't you completely forget all about it in a couple of days? You and Emily might not have looked much alike outwardly, but your personalities were very much alike. And your personalities were very much like my own sister too. My sister went back to acting like the kind old sister she had always been about 2 months before you called me to your house. The reason was pathetically simple. She's in high school now and had a boyfriend, a guy who treated her like a princess. They saw each other every day in school, yet still talk on the phone till late at night. On days when we didn't have school, she would stay out late with him. She would show me photos they had taken with the disposable camera, excitedly telling me how they had ridden the roller coaster at an amusement park 5 times in a row. I had no idea how to react. Mom was happy, saying now that she's growing up she'll get stronger physically, but still worried about my sister. Wasn't going out too much for you? She would ask. What did you have for lunch? Maybe it's better next week if you stay home and not go out. Once my sister had a boyfriend, this kind of remark, so much a part of our daily conversation, became so distasteful to her. I always thought she was the kind who to be fawned over, but it turned out she was more of the type who liked to monopolize someone else. With my sister finding her concern so disagreeable now, Mother started meddling in my life. I thought it a little self-centered of her, though I can't say it bothered me that much. Maybe you should see a doctor for your psychosomatic illnesses, my mother advised me one day, taking me by surprise. It had been 3 days since the murder, so why say that now? Also, I didn't see how the murder had any particular repercussions in my daily life. When I told Mother that there was no need for that, she tearfully told me this. I think your shoplifting and running around at all hours stem from that murder. I mean, you never did anything like that before. You're basically a serious child. So I was sure that over time you would get over it. But the murderer hasn't been found and you're getting worse. I haven't said anything and the store owners don't catch you at it very often. But I know you shoplifted again yesterday. That look in your eyes tells me. That's why I'm saying this. I've been so sure that nobody knew what I was up to. And Mother never seemed to care what I was doing. Just what my sister was. So I never dreamed she was on to me, saying that she could tell from my eyes? What kind of eyes does she mean? I went back to my room, imagined I was going to shoplift, and studied my face in the mirror, but nothing looked any different. I was already thinking of stopping shoplifting. And at that time, you called me to your house. That's why, after I came home from your place, I promised my mother I would never shoplift again. I blame it on you threatening me that I have to remember the murderer's face. That scared me, I told my mother. And before I knew what I was doing, I was shoplifting. But it's okay now, I said, because Emily's mother is moving back to Tokyo. I cut ties too, with the kids I had run around with at night and lived a quiet, serious life. I was younger than the others in the gang, so they didn't really care if I quit. I graduated from high school and was one of the only two local people hired a savings and a loan by a savings and loan in nearby town. So I guess you could say I did my very best. Maybe this was because you weren't around anymore. Don't look at me like that. I'm just stating the facts. What you did that day was nothing less than intimidation. Threatened by you, the other three girls chose Penance. It was stupid for them to do that. They hadn't done anything wrong. I had planned on ignoring it all, but in the end, I decided to take the second option. I would find the murderer. I didn't do it for you though. I did it for my brother-in-law. The contractions are coming quicker now, so let me speed things up right here. My older sister got married 4 years ago. She graduated from a junior college in the city in this prefecture and worked in a department store for 3 years when she got married. After she got married, she quit the job. 6 months they got married. My sister brought her fiance to our house in town. I was living in an apartment in a nearby town and came back the day before to help mother clean up the whole house and welcome the two of them. This time I didn't break any glasses. My sister's fiancé was tall and lanky with a pale, friendly face. Exactly the type to be working in a department store, I figured. But my sister told us that he was a policeman in the prefectural police department. Our whole family stared at him, the doubts showing on our faces, wondering if someone like him could actually capture bad guys. Almost apologetically, my future brother-in-law explained that he was with the information section of the police and spent his time in front of a computer. This was the first time I heard that the police had a section like that, but I could definitely picture him working with computers all day. I asked where the two of them had met. They said that it was at a mixer. A lady, a saleswoman for a life insurance company whose territory included both the department store and the police department, had set up a party. The perfect way for them to have met, I thought, since my sister was always good at getting a man she was interested in to notice her. So I was surprised to hear that it was a fiancé who had fallen in love at first sight and had pursued her. He sounded a bit moonstruck as he related to the story. Appearance-wise, her fiancé was the type my sister had always gone for, but he wasn't my type, so I simply greeted him, shook his hand, and wished them well. And that's when it happened. His hand felt exactly the same as that policeman, Mr. Ando. My memories don't rely much on the visual. It wasn't his look so much as the feeling of his hand that made me realize I want him. I wanted to touch his hands, to be touched by them, have them all to myself. Not that the wish was ever going to be fulfilled on that day, and from then on, he only had eyes for my sister. What I always wanted was what my sister had. Not that she was ever maliciously snatched anything from that were mine. From the time I was born, my mother was entirely hers, and my brother-in-law too, from the time I met him. That's all I mean. 2 years ago, my sister went through a terrible time. She had a miscarriage and wasn't able to have any children after that. It was a busy season for farmers, and my parents couldn't help her much, so she stayed at my apartment while she regained her strength. But when she heard that one of her former classmates had a baby, she burst out sobbing and did the same whenever there were a diaper commercial on television. 2 weeks after, though, she seemed to be over it, lightheartedly went back to the police housing in the city she lived with her husband. She got a part-time job in her old department store and used her pay to take trips with friends she had when she was single. My brother-in-law? He was so busy at work that it didn't seem to make any difference to him if she was at home or not. He was just happy just seeing her well again. But my sister made a terrible mistake. I've gone out with 6 men altogether. Is it so surprising? Even someone like me can get a boyfriend, you know? None of the relationship lasted very long though. The men all said that I was too needy. when all I wanted was just to make them happy. Did the murder traumatize me? Is that what you was asking? Oh, I'd have to definitely say no. That was probably because I didn't clearly see the way Emily's dead body was, and the state of her clothing, and so on. Anyway, all the men I went out were big, as if they did judo or rugby, so my sister figured out that the type of men I like, and she was so sure that I wasn't interested in someone like my brother-in-law. She didn't notice that all I wanted was him, and asked me to take care of the housework while she was gone. No, maybe she did notice. She was, after all, the one who had first realized I was shoplifting, so she should have understood my feelings for her husband. She knew, yet believed my brother-in-law wouldn't betray her, and was perhaps enjoying seeing my reaction. If that's the case, then she brought it on herself. I wanted to go there every day, but considering this time and distance, I could only go on weekends to help with housework. I enjoyed it so much. I would go there on Saturday morning, prepare lunch, and then my brother-in-law would eat it, just the two of us. Sometimes we would watch movies, play games. In the evening, when I told him I had to be going and headed towards the door, he never stopped me, except for one time. Last November, the news came about an information breach in our prefectural police department. Was it rightly reported throughout the country? I don't know. A top secret file containing the name, address, and background of a minor who had committed a juvenile crime was inadvertently emailed to the entire mailing list in the town and anti-crimes network. That news. That was my brother-in-law's fault. More accurately, it was due to a new type of computer virus some hacker had infiltrated the system with, but my brother-in-law was the IT person in charge, so he was severely punished. My sister had made a reservation for a trip to a resort in Hokkaido and went ahead with it, saying that it would be a shame to have to pay for cancellation fees. So my brother-in-law and I were alone at that time. The hands I had wanted for so very long. For just one night, mine. This happened 2 weeks after August 14th, minus 280 days. But that's not where it all ended, because a new life began to grow inside me. The child struggling to be born right now. Excuse me, I need a minute here. When I learned that I was pregnant, I felt I had acquired some amazing thing I just had to have. I could give birth to my brother-in-law's child, a child my sister would never be able to have. Maybe the child was born. Well, maybe when the child was born, he would divorce her and marry me. That's what I was hoping for, and it felt as if it could really come true. My parents were shocked. My mother complaining that she couldn't face our relatives and neighbors because of the shame of me having an affair and getting pregnant. But when my father said to her, "But this means we have an heir now," she started to be more upbeat about the situation, taking a pregnancy belly band and me to the local shrine to be blessed, and accompanying me to the doctor's appointment, though I insisted that I'll be fine on my own. After we found out that the baby was a boy, he was even kinder to me, making all my favorite dishes whenever I came home and letting me watch as much TV and as much videos as I like, even when my sister was with me. My sister had started smoking after she began working again, and whenever she pulled out a cigarette, my mother would reprimand her, which really touched me. Amazing, right? She treated me so much better than after the trauma of the murder. Made me think how wonderful being pregnant can be. Still, it was pretty boring. I had terrible morning sickness and had to quit my job. But once I got to the stable post-morning sickness, I felt great and regretted not having taken a leave of absence. And I thought I should do something that would make my brother-in-law happy. I recalled my sister that during the next personnel reassignments, he might be sent off to some prefectural backwater. The complacent struck me. The complacent thought struck me how nice it would be if he could man the little police substation in whatever town he ended up in. And then I realized how tough this demotion had to be for him. Something nice I could do for my brother-in-law. The policeman. If he could do something really great, maybe he wouldn't have to leave the prefectural headquarters. Like, for instance, capturing a murderer. Emily's murder was soon going to reach the statute of limitations. These thoughts ran through my head, but then I thought, if it were that easy, the police would have long ago arrested the murderer. Okay then, how about some new information on the case? That would be enough. I felt as if I had received a divine revelation. Have you heard the idea that pregnant women often win the lottery? I don't think that's just a superstition. You are nurturing this new life inside you, so it's not strange that you might possess some kind of divinely inspired power. Looking back on it now, though, I see I was just being a bit oversensitive. This happened in April of this year. The divine revelation came over to me on the radio. Your eyes get easily tired, don't they, when you are pregnant? That's why I had the radio on that day. Do you recall the news last summer about the boy living in some free school that set fire to the place? They were going to reopen the school and there was an interview with the director. They asked about why free school were necessary and about increased juvenile crimes, and I was just half listening when I realized my heart suddenly pounding. Why was my heart racing? It was because of the man's voice. It was like that of the man who killed Emily. Still though, unless there was something really special about the man's voice, perhaps they all sounded more or less the same. The man's voice was crisp and easy to understand, but that's about all that distinguished it. Otherwise, it was perfectly ordinary. I had 2 or 3 teachers in high school and junior high who sounded similar. Maybe it was just my desire to find the murderer that made his voice sounded like this to me. I thought, finding it funny. But there was one other thing about this news report that bothered me. Free school. There were a few kids like Akiko in our country who were self-imposed shut-ins, but none of them were attending a free school or anything. Still, the word sounded familiar and I now remembered why. On the day Emily accused me of being a thief, she had mentioned how a person had come wanting to convert cottage into the kind of alternative school. The cottage was never sold though, and 5 years ago it was torn down. The real estate agent showing the property back then had already left on that day, but I knew him because just before the end of the fiscal year he had come by our house to try to get my parents to buy that land. It was within walking distance and without any expectations really, more like just killing time. Actually, feeling more as if I was searching for a new place to live for me and my brother-in-law and our baby, I went to see the real estate agent at his office near the station. When the agent saw my swollen belly, a bit expectantly, "You are looking for a new place to live, I imagine?" But when I said I wanted to ask about the person who 15 years ago had visited the cottage thinking to make it into a free school, the agent was clearly disappointed. "As I recall," he said, "they told me a free school built in the countryside would mainly be for problem kids from the city, so it had to be in a place that was convenient to get to. But managing a place like that has to be hard. I mean, that other place was burned down and all. When I saw it on TV, I was really surprised to see it was the same man from then." This is what the agent told me. The man, whose voice sounded like the murderer's, actually visited the cottage 2 months before Emily was killed? If that's true, that's an amazing discovery, I thought. But having come this far and confirming it as a fact, actually making it harder to believe. Okay then, what should I do? tell my brother-in-law? I was terribly confused. But if that was all that I had to go on, then so what? 2 months before the murder, a man whose voice, in my opinion, resembled of that of the murderer visited the town, but the voice wasn't much proof of anything at all. Plus, there was a French doll theft to be considered. I needed some more decisive proof. Fingerprints or something. What did Emily say back then? Didn't she say that she was the one who found our treasures? Didn't she say that the one who found our treasures was the person who came to see the cottage? I wonder if he touched my bookmark. Didn't they get any fingerprints from the volleyball? After he took Emily away, we went on passing the ball, so it's doubtful there would be any useful prints, but they said they did discover some, and those prints matched with the ones on my bookmarks. This could really be something. I didn't have a good memory of the bookmark, but I kept it in. But I had it kept in all these years as a kind of memento of Emily. I have to tell my brother-in-law. Right around this time, something awful happened. My sister tried to commit suicide. I came back to visit my parents and she was back too, slit her wrists in the bathtub. The cuts were shallow and not life-threatening. I think it was more of a demonstration than anything. My mother blamed herself, of course, for having given my sister a weak constitution that she had a miscarriage, but that couldn't be the reason for the suicide attempt. I think my sister realized that the baby I was carrying was her husband's. My brother-in-law blamed himself and was with her every day moment after that, taking care of her. Whether it was because of the troubles at work or because of the baby, I lost my chance to talk with him about the murder, and besides, it didn't seem to matter anymore. Giving birth to a child wasn't going to make him mine, and I no longer wanted him as much as I did before. I decided I would give birth to this new life growing inside me on my own and raise the baby on my own. This baby would be the only one who needed me. I think this 10 months and 10 days is the time period given to me to let me really feel I'm going to be a mother. But it was you who wouldn't allow me this. Ugh, it hurts. Let me stop for a moment again. Don't touch me. I don't want you stroking my back. I didn't want to think any more about the murder, but then I got a letter from you. A copy of the letter from Sai. And then I got a copy from the weekly magazine website where Maki Confession was uploaded. And your letter. I call it a letter. But it was only one line. I have forgiven all of you, it said. Isn't it strange though? Why are you accusing us of doing to you? What are you accusing us of doing to you and to Emily? When you read the letter from Saye, didn't it occur to you that you had driven her to murder her husband? When you found how the words you spit out that time, over 10 years ago, you weighed down on this girl more than you could ever have imagined. You didn't know what to do, did you? Panicking, you made copies of the letter and sent them to the other three of us. Even so, one of the other girls then killed someone. You sent the letters because you wanted us to stop obsessing over what you have told us, and you regretted that this didn't get across. So this time, you appended your own message. But still, one of the other girls killed someone. That girl said she hadn't read the letter. You thought that at least you could have saved the final girl, which is why you have come directly to see me now. You are acting ridiculous. You blame yourself for things that have come to this, but at the same time, you seem so full of yourself. Isn't that what you say to forgive us? At Sai's wedding ceremony, if you had just apologized to her, told her that you were sorry, you had said those awful things to her, I wonder if she would have felt so fixated on the promise that she made to you. If, along with Sai's letter, you had only added one more line to the effect that we should forget the promise we made back then, I doubt Maki would have felt as driven into a corner as she did. I don't know how much you affected Akiko, but what happened to me with me has nothing to do with any of that. But didn't you really come here much earlier? I was really shocked to see and read in I was really shocked to read in Maki's confession the name of the man who ran the free school. The thought crossed my mind that I should get in touch with her. The first thought about contacting her younger sister, and just then, the incident with Akiko happened. The incidents involving Sae and Maki happened in faraway towns, so the gravity of their having killed someone didn't really hit me so much, but Akiko took place in our hometown. I'm no policeman, and so no one would have blamed me if I accused the man of being the murderer and it turned out that he wasn't. I was less worried about that than finally putting an ending to it all. I told my brother-in-law I had something really important to tell him and asked him to come to my apartment. How he interpreted important was clear. As soon as he arrived at my door, he threw himself down on his knees, bowed his head to the floor and said, "I'll help out financially as much as I can, but please don't tell anyone that the child is mine." My protruding belly kept me from seeing his face, but it was obvious how upset he was. Maybe before he left the house, my sister had said something to him. My apartment was on the second floor, next to the staircase. Anyone passed by, yet he remained there on his knees, head bowed, pitifully, apologetically, pleading with me not to let anyone know that this was his child. The thought that a man like this was the child of my father made me feel miserable. Why should I have to tell him the critical secret that I had? And then, this thought struck me. If I went to the prefectural police, Mr. Ando might be there. Why hadn't I thought of that before? Hey, Gatsby! Thank you for being here. Telling my brother-in-law wouldn't help, so I gave up the idea. I had left the apartment and started to walk away when he grabbed me and pinned me from behind. No expressions of affection, that's for sure. "Never, ever tell Mayu about this," he hissed. Mistakenly, thinking I was on the way to see her, still keeping me pinned, he forced me over to the staircase. My brother-in-law was trying to kill me. No, not me, but the child in my womb. Even though it's his child, he was willing to kill what was so precious to me for the sake of my sister. For her. And there was no way I was going to let that happen. No matter how angry I was though, no matter how desperate I was to protect my baby, my brother-in-law was, after all, a man and a policeman, lanky and thin though he might be. I struggled hard and I couldn't break free. He pushed me to the edge of the stairs. One of my feet slipped and I was sure that I was going to fall, but right there and then, a cell phone in the pocket of my jumper rang. The theme song of a famous detective drama. At the very instant, my brother-in-law, startled, relaxed his grips. I twisted away and with one free hand pushed him in the chest as hard as I could. "I'm sorry." It's a text from my sister. It seemed like my brother-in-law didn't make it. The phone call at that moment was from you. After my brother-in-law tumbled down the stairs, I pulled out my phone to call an ambulance. And there was a number not in my contact list on the incoming call. It bothered me, but first I had to call the ambulance first. After it arrived, call and tell the EMTs what had happened. It was my fault, I explained. I remember something that could be a clue to a murder 15 years ago, and my brother-in-law, a policeman, came here so I could ask him about it. We were going to go together to the police station and were rushing out when I slipped on the stairs. My brother-in-law tried to keep me from falling and he slipped and fell. I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. As I stood there crying, my stomach began to hurt. Though It was a little early. I had them take me in the same ambulance to the hospital, so here I am. Soon after that, you called me, said that you were in the area and wanted to meet, so I had you come to the hospital, but I was wondering, had you come to the apartment first and seen everything that took place? The timing of your phone call was a bit too good to be true. Ah, so I'm right. You are happy that you were able to help me. Or maybe you couldn't stand it knowing that the last of us four also ended up killing someone and right before your eyes. You couldn't stand it? Then why didn't you call out to me sooner? Didn't you come to my apartment, see a man visiting me, and out of curiosity wait and see how it all would play out? In the end, your apologetic feelings towards us weren't genuine. You might still hate us, thinking we were responsible for Emily's murder. This is what I thought. That we just happened to be caught up in the murder. That the murderer didn't just choose Emily from the five of us, but had his eyes on Emily from the start. And that her treasure, that ring, has something to do with it. And that you, who own the ring, were involved. I think maybe you know the man who ran the free school, this Mr. Nanjo. My proof is the rumor I heard from that friend of mine, the one who argued with her husband over the due dates of their baby, that Emily is not really your husband's child. They got a new president in your company not long ago, didn't they? And I understand all sorts of things happened. The rumor may be groundless, but I get the feeling it cannot be totally be dismissed. And I'm not just relying on a pregnant woman's intuition. Emily's almond eyes, for one thing, don't resemble either yours or your husband's. Can we really ignore genetics? Another thing, when you called the four of us to your house, this is what you said. I am her parent, and I am the only one who has the right. The only one. I don't know if it will prove anything, but I'm giving you this bookmark to thank you. I hope for saving this baby inside me. I was sure that the four of us, I was the only one unaffected by the murder, but it turns out what you said to us held me in its grip as well. All four of us have now kept our promise to you, and what do you plan to do with that? You definitely have money and power. You can go ahead and tell the police that I pushed my brother-in-law. I don't mind.
Stretch!
I'll leave this up to you. But even if you don't tell, don't expect me to thank you for protecting me. I think I'll better go over to the OBGYN ward soon. It's been a long day. A long 15 years. And I'm glad that my precious treasure's birthday won't be on the 14th of August. That's all. And that's the end of chapter 4. 10 months and 10 days. And I stretch. Thank you so much to my holy wing. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Oh my god. Oh, this book is so much more fucked up than Confession. Seriously. I wish they translate more of her books, man. Seriously. Feels like it's such a shame that she wrote so many books, but only 2 books of hers are translated. I couldn't really read them. Ping pong. chapters seems to be quite long. It seems. Wait, yeah. No, chapter 5 though. Chapter 5 on Wednesday. No. You Gatsby, you gotta wake up earlier for this, okay? I can't read anymore. I'm losing my voice. Seriously, bruh. What's up? How are you guys feeling? How are you guys feeling about the story so far, guys? Let's talk about it. I'm sorry, Gatsby. You can listen to the VOD later when I'm done. I'm so sorry, but I'm tired and I need lunch. Oh, can always watch my VOD. My reading has been dog shit lately. Seriously, I keep on stumbling, and okay, I don't want to be like all like I don't want to be like all blaming the the translator for it, but I prefer the translator for confession. The words runs more smoothly. Penance, right? The translator for Penance is the same translator for a lot of what's his face, Haruki Murakami's books. So the translation has a lot of like really useless words. like there's a lot of pauses, a lot of commas, a lot of pauses, a lot of like the prose doesn't run as smooth as the translator for confession, I feel. No, Gatsby, I hate Murakami and I'll never read Murakami's book, by the way. Just so you know. I fucking hate Haruki Murakami's book. So no, I will never read his book. The next, yeah, no. Yeah, you can read Haruki Murakami's. I won't stop you from reading it. Okay, you guys can read it on your own. You guys can read Murakami's book on your own, but I will never read it myself because I truly hate his style of writing. I hate his stories. I hate the way he write women. They are always like some broken woman who needs man's penis to fix them. It's very incel. Haruki Murakami's books are very it's like very incelish. I can't stand it. No, I usually read Asian writers. Because I feel like we should give Asian writers more chance. Yeah. Like, I can read Lolita if you want. It seems like I only like really fucked up books. No. I don't take book requests. I'm sorry, but even if you subscribe to me or pay me, I will not take book requests because it's just not something that I do. I will read what I want to read. Yeah. Nuna is definitely a psycho that's like not even debatable. I am 100% psycho. Not the you don't need to debate about that. Um, it's just the truth. Nuna is psycho. I just really like thrillers, man. But seriously, I didn't expect Penance to be this fucked up. I know it's about a child's murder, but I didn't know there's so many. I don't know, child abuse and child sexual abuse things come up in the book. It's really, really, really surprising to me. Seriously, yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's really out of my expectation. This book, this knocked me out of my chair. Seriously, it's really weird. Yeah, this book is definitely not as good as Confession. Confession is still the best book by Kanae Minato so far, but unfortunately I can't read Japanese. She wrote like over, I think, almost 20 books or something like that, but only 2 books out of her bibliography that's like translated into English, which is Confession and Penance. So as much as I want to continue reading her books, I just don't have the chance to do it. And Penance will be the last book that I read from Kanae Minato. And the next book that I'm going to read, which is after. Okay, so guys, just so you guys know, my next reading session is on coming this Wednesday, 11 a.m. GMT +8. Gatsby just need to wake up early, man. Seriously, I can't help you. If you want to chill while I'm reading. And then I will be traveling for like about 2 weeks. I won't be back until dude, I woke up at like fucking 10:30 as well, and I fucking spilled coffee all over myself right before I started. Anyways, I'll be away until the 22nd. So the next I will like, when I stream overseas, right? Yeah, it's not that far away. It's just like my neighboring country. I'm there for work. When I stream, right, it will be IRL stream, because I don't have a laptop or a computer there to put up this game and put up this avatar to stream. So it will be IRL stream. Those stream usually I don't keep the VOD, so if you guys want to watch IRL me stream, I don't show my face usually also. I don't know, maybe I'll stream and then I'll read some random book that I brought along with me. What do you think? If I'm free, that is. If I'm free, that is. Yeah. I mean, the last IRS stream that I actually kept the VOD is me trying to play on my cruiser board and falling about 10,000 times. The one called Watch Nuna Died. Yeah. But yes, I will be away after this Wednesday, the 9th of November. I have one more reading session for Penance by Kanae Minato. It's ending there. I'm ending the book on this Wednesday, and after that I'll be busy for work until the 22nd, and the next book would be a new book. I am going to SG. I need to go there for works every couple of months, so yeah, I am going to SG. So yeah, I will do some IRL stream